You're watching TBPN!
The Starship exploded during a test in Texas, a setback for Musk's Mars ambitions. Now, the Mars transfer window is very, very tight. Like, you can only get from the Earth to Mars like once every 18 months or something, or maybe even more. It's really hard because, like, if the planets are on the opposite side of the solar system, like, you just can't, like, even though you have a rocket, you just can't get over there. So you have to wait until they're lined up, and then you can do it.
But realistically, skill issue?
Realistically, true. Skill issue. If you build an even faster rocket, you could get there no matter what. Yeah. You just steer it around like it's a GT3 RS around the Nürburgring. No problem. So the explosion occurred during a static fire test. No injuries were reported. Thank goodness. We love autonomy. Very, very happy to hear that no one was injured during this, because it looked horrific, and it looked like in any other scenario there would be a bunch of technicians there, but that fortunately they were able to do everything remotely, which is great. And then Starship faces pressure to meet deadlines for NASA's moon mission and Mars exploration. So there's a big NASA moon contract that's very important, very material to the business. Obviously, SpaceX has a lot of other business lines, but this one's very, very important too. And it's and we hope that they can get back on track. SpaceX is making an enormous bet on Starship, which stands roughly 400 feet tall at liftoff as it tries to break ground with new reusable rockets. And the paradigm of Starship, it's not just a bigger rocket, it is way more reusable. Like, you look at the thing, it comes down, gets caught by those arms, can instantly be refueled and sent back up. You're talking about potentially like multiple flights per day. And so the problem here is not, can you build a big rocket? Humanity has done that before. Humanity's built a rocket that's roughly on par. We've gotten to the moon before. The challenge now is not, can we get to the moon? It's the same thing with, like, the challenge is not, can we build a flying car, or we have helicopters. Can we build one humanoid robot or one self-driving car in San Francisco? It's like, can we actually scale these systems to the point that it is safe to go to the moon and back on the drop of a hat for $200? Like, that's the challenge. It's more of an economic and industrial might challenge. And that's a completely different challenge from just, can we get one rocket to the moon? An exquisite system. We're looking for reusable, scalable, frequency engineering system. So good luck to Elon rebuilding and the entire SpaceX team. I'm sure it's a huge challenge right now. Meta Oakleys are coming. Shield says this makes sense. Luxottica owns both Oakley and Ray-Ban, and Meta is reportedly investing $5 billion for a 4% stake. Luxottica is a fascinating business story. The founder, Leo Del Vecchio's family, still owns 1/3. The guy was an orphan who became a metal worker, making parts for glasses, ultimately becoming the largest listed company in Italy.
It is really interesting to think about how, if Meta can basically corner all of the most iconic frames, which they can do through Luxottica, if they do figure out some type of exclusive over time through that investment. And
does Luxottica just own all the major brands?
They basically own everything.
Peoples and everything.
Every time you buy sunglasses, you think
back.
You're buying some unique brand with heritage. Luxottica.
It's interesting. We should dig more into that company, because they don't own all the retail. There's a lot of Sunglass Hut retail stuff going on.
They are big glasses, and that created the opportunity for Warby Parker. Because
they're the ones that manufacture everything.
Basically this entire, Luxottica had verticalized from brand to production to the actual medical side as well.
Interesting. Also, some good news in OpenAI world, even though they're going through some battles with Microsoft, they scored a $200 million U.S. defense contract. So they're working with the DoD.
The most unhinged
this
picture.
Photo, I know. Sam. How did this photo shoot happen? Like, this looks like he's about to go on stage and he has a lav mic and it's from a low angle, but like, what lighting scenario created this photo? It's amazing, but it's very aggressive. Anyway, great selection by Nick.
Not beating the
arms
evil tech arms dealer allegations with this picture.
Yeah, if you're a founder, you got to be careful how the angles people photograph you. But at a certain point, if you're on stage, they're going to take photos in any direction. But and if they take enough photos, they'll get every single expression. So get ready. Other news, Meta finally put ads into WhatsApp. In January 2012, they said, we don't sell ads, which is still live. But this is why we love them, and this is why Zuck is undefeated. WhatsApp should have ads.
The backbone of the internet.
It's the backbone of the internet. Signal says that's why he's an Apple fanboy, because they don't do ads. Well, Apple does have a huge ads business.
I bet you this is just them listening to their users. I bet the users all over the globe said the only thing that could make WhatsApp better is just putting some ads in this bad boy. It's the one place I go that I don't get any. I
felt like this was already happening. I felt like this leaked like 5 years ago.
How much? Anyway, it was a $20 billion acquisition. Of course, they were going to put some ads in it at some point.
Of course, Senator, we sell ads.
Take it over to Tyler.
How you doing over there?
What's up, guys? In the back of the Maybach. It's pretty chill back here.
You got a little desk set up.
Yeah.
Got Wi-Fi. You're
and so
ready
today,
to be productive.
the big news that we're having him dig into is Cluely.
Yep.
They are okay. Something happening.
Something
there
might happen today.
But we got some flack for talking to Roy and not actually using the app. We're still above using the app, but we will let our intern use the app.
It's more that we don't have time.
Yes.
We're too busy podcasting, but Tyler has time. Many people are starting to call after his windsurf review. People are starting to call him the MKBHD of enterprise software.
Yeah, but people have been saying that.
So today he's going to be trying out Cluely. We're going to be helping. You're going to see how easily he can cheat on some hard-hitting questions that we're going to be asking him. So
state of affairs, Tyler, where are we on the Cluely install so far? Have you paid for it? What's the experience been like so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to go whenever. I played around with it for maybe like 2 minutes just to make sure it's working.
Okay.
So I want to get my live reaction when we start.
Okay. Well, spin it up, pay for it.
Yes.
Let's get on the top tier.
Are there multiple tiers?
We'll check back in a little bit.
Yeah. We're going to be peppering you with questions that only Cluely could answer.
Yep.
What's the population of Iran? Go.
89 million. 82?
89?
Wait, I don't have it running right now.
You got to have it running. You failed. You failed your technical
You failed
interview.
the first test. Well, get it fixed, and we'll circle back in a bit.
Get it to
get it together.
Guess a question. Guess a number between 1 and 50 randomly. We're going to quiz Tyler now if he's ready. Is he good to go?
He's ready. I got a thumbs up.
I want to ask how much money has been invested in Shenzhen. I'm trying to talk into the mic, but not
give it all away.
Yeah. Okay. So I am looking this up. Oh no, I used O3 Pro, so it's going to be 12 minutes. Damn it. Okay. New tab. I will have to use 4.0 for this because I need a quick. So he's investing $1 trillion, right, to compete with China's Shenzhen manufacturing hub. I want to know how close that gets us. Wait, this is weird. I don't know. One of 9 billion, more than 25 billion. This does not seem right.
I have some various stats here.
Quiz?
I think it's going to be pretty hard to pin down the exact.
We need to quiz Tyler on this question.
Tyler, over since 1980s, how much foreign direct investment has there been in Shenzhen?
Let me think here. I would say since 1980s, over 100 billion. Estimates range from 100 billion to 150 billion. And Shenzhen is a major global manufacturing and tech hub.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, you're so smart.
It's actually kind of pulls it off.
Pretty close. I mean, I think that the challenge is actually there's so many ways that you could kind of measure this, right?
Yeah.
I have a table. So there's about 100 billion of local funds. There was a state and AI robotics fund announced this year. There was another semiconductor industry fund announced this year. There was up until 2014 there was 65 billion of cumulative foreign direct investment, but who knows? And then run rating, I guess around 10 billion. But also, like, does this count what Apple is doing? Yeah. Right, that's like another form of investment. Anyways, this might be an answer that Cluely, I guess, got pretty close.
It was pretty good. I thought it was good. I have a follow up. So The iPhones made over in China, often flown via 747 to America, faster than shipping on a cargo ship. How many iPhones fit inside of a 747?
All right. Let me think here. I would say about 2 to 3 million in a 747. So 747 max payload is about 140,000 kilograms.
Okay.
Each iPhone box is about half a kilogram.
Okay.
So I would say, a practical range of iPhones is probably 1.5 to 2.5 per flight. But obviously it depends on, packaging, pallets, cargo layout, all that kind of stuff.
That's pretty good. I mean, ChatGPT here has 9.6 million, but I think that's including like every inch of the plane, including like the passenger
It's very possible
portion.
that
I think
Cluely
that's
is
more
more
accurate, actually. I think that might be more accurate.
Is Cluely goated?
It might be.
We'll have to ask Roy, who's coming on the show later today.
Yeah,
But
this is
I'm
so
impressed so
yeah.
far.
The ChatGPT estimate had the usable internal volume as passenger plus cargo, and it feels like you used just the cargo number. Is that correct?
I believe, yes. I think so.
Okay.
Well, I see ChatGPT estimate 9.6 million.
It's streaming through.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
So
cool.
I was using just the cargo. I think.
This is fantastic. It actually works pretty well.
All
I'm impressed so far.
This is basically young Jamie from Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Except you don't even have to look anything up. We just get to ask you live.
Yeah, this is great. Andre Karpathy chimes in. He says, very interesting to think about. Job equals bundle of tasks plus glue. Probably a bunch of other variables involved, e.g. the number of tasks, how long each task is, e.g. Meter-like notion of task length roughly equals difficulty, how contextual it is, how high reliability it needs, whether it can be done fully digitally. Not sure what the state of the art is in trying to think this through and chart the impact of AI on labor markets so far. E.g., I was curious to look for radiologists, and if I'm getting this right, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics cites 29,530 U.S. radiologists in 2021, and then up to, and let's go to Tyler, how many radiologists does the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics claim there have been in 2023?
Okay, come back to me in 30 seconds.
Okay.
We'll be back.
I think he's working, and so when I just hit him with random questions, not quite great.
He's not in the Zoom, so Cluely's not running.
Oh, okay. He's not in the Zoom. Okay. Well, yeah.
That was your first mistake, Tyler.
Yeah. No,
Always keep Cluely on.
Always keep Cluely on. Does Cluely have the ability to just prompt it directly, or do you have to be on a Zoom?
No, you don't have to be on Zoom. You can do it on the website. You can just prompt it. It looks like almost just like the ChatGPT interface.
Sure.
But you can also just pull audio just from in person. Like if I was sitting across from you, it'd be fine. I'm not sure it'll be able to hear you from in the car.
Yeah.
But
It doesn't have
I'll get back on the Zoom.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to you with that.
The audience will have to wait to find out how many radiologists we have.
Everyone's
in the
waiting
United
with
States.
bated breath. Everyone wants to know. Well, let's tell you about
Nikita.
Linear.
Okay.
Linear is a purpose-built tool for planning and building products. Meet the system for modern software development, streamline issues, projects, and product roadmaps. If you're building Cluely, get on Linear. Nikita Beer builds a lot of
Linear's
products.
customer list looks like a tier 1 venture firm's portfolio page.
I
Got
love it.
Ramp, OpenAI,
Wow.
Cursor, Runway, Perplexity.
I normally
Pretty
make the
cool.
joke of like the next, when we talk to
Mercury.
Sam Altman, we're going to pitch him Linear, but
Boom
it's like, too late.
Aerospace.
Wow, Boom is on there too. That's cool. I always make jokes about like using Linear for other stuff, and you're like, no, it's just for software. And look at Boom. They're using it for everything. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's
Tyler, what
let's
do
go
you
to
got?
Tyler. The question
Radiologist
is
expert. We're interviewing you for a job as a data analyst, covering radiology.
yes. So the question is, how many radiologists does the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics claim exist in the United States in 2023?
Let me think about this.
I'm noticing a towel.
I'm going to estimate maybe
31 to 34,000 radiologists.
Wow, really
at least from 2023, I would say. But yeah, that's my best guess.
It's your best guess. It's 31,960. I think you got the job.
Oh,
I think you got the job.
It might be goated.
Okay, I have another question for you. Pop quiz. Off the top of your head, what's the GDP of India?
Off the top of my head, let's see. I'm gonna say 3.7 trillion.
Wow, it really sells it that you're touching your face, so I can tell that your hands aren't on the keyboard.
You can tell that I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just thinking about it. Yeah, you got to be a good actor. But maybe that's why Cluely is so focused on the social media influencers, because they have a little bit of acting in them. And so they're able to, this is going to be the modern tell.
No, it's good. Okay. You're a great actor and Cluely might actually
Or maybe he's not
product.
using Cluely and he just knows all this stuff off the top of his head.
It's very possible. Tyler needs to use Cluely to figure out.
I'm on.
Oh, no, I think we got a feedback loop here. Can we hear you? How much is the Hisense 100-inch TV cost? Hisense.
Let me think. I'm gonna say typically I would say around $3,000 to $5,000. Obviously, price varies by region and model.
Okay. This sounds so natural. 100-inch. Yeah. I think Apple should do it.
Do it.
It'd be great.
Tim, do it.
100 inches would be a good like, differentiator too, because a lot of brands, they 55, 65, 75, it's gotten all confusing. It was just like, if you're going with Apple, you're getting a 100-inch TV. Boom. Yeah. And it's just amazing quality.
Yeah.
The intern Cam's still active. I want to go to Tyler for one last pop quiz. Oh, is he on? Okay. I wanted to ask you. Yeah, what's the capital of Michigan?
The capital of Michigan.
Didn't you go to school there?
I think it's Lansing.
I think you're maybe leaning on Cluely too much at this point.
I don't know. I don't know if you're cheating using your brain, or I can't really assess the product. You have too much domain knowledge on Michigan.
What's your name?
My name. Let me think here. No. It's like that paper that just came out. Right.
Yeah. Do you think that based on your use of Cluely, do you think it'll make you smarter, or do you think you'll take your foot off the gas?
I was thinking. Let me think about that. Actually, I think probably the latter. Honestly, it's just like I just don't need to think. I don't need to store any knowledge in my brain now. So maybe it frees me up to do more, reasoning tasks.
Okay.
But even then, once they get O3 in here, it's really like everything's covered. So
no reasoning necessary.
Did you get a feeling for what model was under the hood?
I don't know. I think I could probably check, but I'm not sure right now.
It's so weird interacting with somebody using Cluely. They're like every answer is like, and then you don't know if they're reading Cluely or not,
or just actually thinking. Well, anyways, people should go try the product.
Yeah,
make your own decision. I really think that anytime Roy gets a negative comment, please just use the product for 5+ hours, and then you can have an opinion.
The message to Andreessen: no crying in the casino. Because Roy Lee, there's probably a viral video of him going to the casino soon.
Pretty soon.
That's going to make a lot of people angry, and so
Chamath is talking about SPACing again.
Yeah,
I think Cluely's a good target. I bet
it's not the craziest target out there.
Not the craziest. Chamath's in Mr. Beast. Holdco.
Yeah, there's a lot of revenue there. It's growing. The market needs a pure play AI.
They love
viral
pure play, a pure Roy play.
Yeah. There's no pure play.
Well, we have some more breaking news. Apparently,
break it down. Next up, we have Roy from Cluely, the man himself. Third time in the studio, third time on TBPN. Welcome to the stream.
Get that hammer
ready. Let's bring him in. Let's hope he's ready. Roy, give us the news. Give us the headline number. How are you doing? How much did you raise?
$15 million fucking dollars.
Clean hit.
Congratulations. Why'd you raise money? I thought you were printing so much money you didn't need to raise ever. What happened?
We're printing money, but we need more money. Every single day we're looking for things to spend money on.
Okay. Uses of the funds. What are you going to spend on first?
$14 million for brain-computer interface development.
Yes.
Exactly. We have whatever you thought the viral content. You thought this was cool, bro. We're doing 10x this.
Okay. More videographers, more After Effects artists,
more editors, more engineers, more everything. Please.
Moss.
Yes, let's go. Yeah, what's the morning routine like now over at Cluely HQ?
Everybody wakes up and we swipe on Hinge for 30 minutes. It's mandatory. Everyone swipes on TikTok, Instagram for an hour just to make sure the viral senses are refreshed.
Okay.
And we all do cold plunges, and we're ready to hit the day with caffeine.
If you cold plunge though, does it negate like the brain rot? Like, do you get to, or is that intentional of like relocking and like
we scroll to keep our viral sense up, but after that it's time to get to work. We're a serious company, we're not just trolling over here.
Okay, that's good to hear. Talk to me about the Hinge use case. I want to hear Cluely's desktop app. You're not in the App Store. If someone's using Hinge on their phone, how are they going to take advantage of Cluely now or in the future?
I mean, every single time you screenshot something and ask ChatGPT anything, I mean,
yes.
like this entire use case, like it is ridiculous that I have to do this. Like AI can already take the context of your screen and audio and give you information out of it. Why can ChatGPT.com not use this? Why is the main AI use case not already aware of what's going on your screen? We think this is crazy.
Yes, but it's locked down for privacy reasons on the iPhone. So the question is like, what user interface innovation are you going to bring to bear on the phone so that you can actually unlock the vast majority of consumers who are realistically not using the most popular consumer apps on their desktop?
I would push back on whether we even have to enter the phone at all. Really, the technology is growing so fast. We might just be able to skip phone entirely. We might be able to skip glasses entirely. And like whatever it is, I think the technology is growing super fast. I think phone, like in 5 years, I would question whether phone is the dominant consumer use case.
Okay, I get that you're BCI pilled. It still feels a few years out. The Meta Ray-Bans feel very much here today. Have you looked into those APIs? How developer friendly is the Meta Ray-Ban ecosystem versus the iOS ecosystem versus the MacBook Pro ecosystem, which seems to be where you're flourishing right now?
Yes.
I feel like you're going to have a really hard time on iOS. No matter how cracked your engineers are, Apple is just going to say no.
I think Roy, if anybody could riz Tim Cook.
I won't put it past you, but it feels like the Meta Ray-Ban ecosystem might be a little bit more open. What's your read on the Meta Ray-Ban or the Meta glasses rollout? They just had an announcement today.
My read is that there is way more money in all-in desktop assistant than people actually think. There's maybe 2-3 competitors in this, maybe 2-3 competitors who are actually trying to take a meaningful stab at a desktop assistant. And there's way more money and way more value in this than people think. We're still going to be using computers in a few years. Maybe we'll be using something else, but like enterprise, bro, these sales, Oracle, Adobe, these guys move slow as fuck, bro. Like they will be using BlackBerry still, bro. Like they are moving slow. We're going to have computers unlock a bunch of enterprise value for the next few years, and we'll be here to capture all of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get that it feels like this is going towards enterprise note-taking, enterprise assistant, and would have a very positive. Yes, you use the cheat on your technical interview as like a viral hook, but we're having our intern demo Cluely today, and you could see that if we're on a call, just having answers be pulled up ambiently is valuable. There's obviously a bunch of bots that plug in and listen and record your emails, but being more proactive seems like a step forward. It begs the question, why are you in the consumer group in Andreessen? But I guess that there still is a consumer angle long term. But how are you seeing Cluely users adopt the product? It feels like the logical case is at work on the desktop.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, if the question is how are Cluely users using the product?
Yes.
Most people, it is most helpful in a meeting. Right now, there's no product on the tool that gives you live assistance during a meeting.
Yes.
That's where all the prosumer and enterprise values, most prosumer and enterprise values being derived. Yes. Other than that, we have the gigantic consumer, the most viral use case ever of literally cheating, bro. Like answers your questions. And even when you're doing homework, I mean, just immediate, bro. Like you do all your homework instantly. When you're doing quizzes, assignments, when you're watching lectures, bro, immediate, bro. Just immediate help.
Immediate on site. Gotta give a shout out to the whole team. We were reviewing Cluely throughout the show today. We were pretty impressed with the product. I think a lot of people that are yapping on the timeline, haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
And
we would never.
And I think anytime going forward, somebody leaves a negative comment, just say, hey, totally understand how you might think that. Why don't you just use the product for 5-10 hours and then come back and let me know if you feel the same way.
I think that's the right
You get
move.
a user out of it. Talk about the process for the round. You raised a seed round not very long ago. Did this come inbound?
I will say right now to all the VCs watching, if you ever are trying to get around, you get me an email thread and you say, hey, let me loop in my assistant and we'll schedule a call in 2 weeks. You are not getting allocation. And I'll ring up every single one of my friends to make sure you don't get allocation. Bro, these rounds move so fucking quick. You don't have too much. Your whole job is to find the alpha and invest quick and early. Why are you looping an assistant in 2 weeks? My partners, Brian and Eric, they came with steaks and Coke Zeros to the house directly.
Steaks and Coke Zeros.
I love these guys. This is how investors need to be. Your job is to find the fucking alpha, bro. Why are you looping in an assistant? There was a preempt, and I think all rounds you need to preempt. Like fucking hot, bro.
Preempted founder.
If you're not getting preempted, just shut your company
rounds.
down. Even if you're running out of money, if you're not getting preempted, just shut the company down.
Shut the company down. That's great.
Bro, these rounds are moving so quick. Companies grow so quick. Oh, VCs don't have 2 weeks to loop in your assistant.
Okay. What is your underlying motivation for building this company?
I want to be conqueror of the fucking universe. It is so obvious that AI is going to massively expand what is capable. And I think even in 5-10 years, bro, if we keep growing at this rate, we'll be on the next ship to Mars. We'll all be living at 400 years old and I'll be jacked till I die. And in that universe, bro, these companies will converge into super companies. And these super companies is going to be me versus Elon versus Sam competing to be guardian of the fucking galaxy, bro. And I'm going to be on top.
Okay. Sounds like you're power hungry. There's been a criticism,
which can be a strength.
A strength. There's clearly a subtweet about you going around on X, arguing that you are driven by fame, not greed or idealism. Is that true? To what degree are you motivated by fame specifically?
The only two things I really care about in my life are working on something that I find interesting and getting the work seen by people.
Yes.
Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, these are my inspirations. These people are known by every living conscious human being in the world. Man, this guy founded Apple. This guy did Tesla. Bro, it's the coolest shit ever. 4,000 years ago, bro, you wanted to hunt big fucking woolly mammoths and bring them back to the tribe. There's no more woolly mammoths. There's only startups.
Okay, so
you're not beating the allegation.
Wait, but more precisely, if the best path for Cluely forward is your interns getting tons of social media views, you step out of the limelight because you're managing the company. People know Cluely, but they don't know Roy Lee. Is that still a win for you?
Of course, at one point, the company becomes undistinguishable from the founder.
Yes.
It's what happened with every single big company, and it's what will happen with Cluely.
Yeah, it's just a unique situation because we know of Palmer Luckey because of Oculus, the product, and many people know of Cluely because of you and the viral stunts that you've pulled, and so you're kind of inverting it. And the question that the haters are asking of you is the long-term goal to build a great product or to build the brand of Roy Lee?
Bro, it is to change the world in a meaningful way. And you don't change the world by going viral a million times. You change the world by genuinely building a world-changing product. Technology changes the world. I will build great technology, and every person in the world will watch me do it.
Okay.
Amazing. How big are you going on the content side? Do you want to get a single video with 100 million views? Are you going that big? Is that kind of the wrong framework to think about it? But I imagine you're going to have more budget than ever, and it's easy now to get 1 million views on X on a video. Is 100 million views on YouTube the next challenge?
I will tell you right now, and this might be the most logical thing I say on here, but the biggest societal shift in maybe human history happened about 5 years ago when TikTok surpassed YouTube in terms of virality and usage. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, the number of content creators stayed the same and the relative number of content being created stayed the same, whereas the quantity of content being consumed about 100x. As a result, there is this gigantic gap where there is not enough viral content for people to consume, which is why you see the same Subway Surfers overlaid on a Reddit story. You see that 100 times because there's literally not enough good content out there. For the next maybe 6 months to a year, anything you post that has the potential to go viral will go viral, which is why you see our marketing team is all influencers with viral sense. Yep. We know we independently all have 20 ideas a day that we know will go viral. And this extrapolated out over a year will literally generate 1 billion views a month. And if you're someone who thinks 1 billion views a month is not going to convert to some money, like, bro, you're retarded, bro. Go back to school, bro.
1 billion views a month, is that like, will you run into a cap? Is there a set market size that you will saturate and then we'll be seeing Super Bowl ads?
I have no idea, but I'll tell you right now, like Super Bowl ads, it's all old. Like, this is the old meta. The new meta is in content, is in short form, and nobody seems to have captured the gigantic delta in generating more viral content.
I still think it'd be funny if you forced 127 million people, the number of people that watch the Super Bowl, to just watch a video of you saying, "Hello, I'm Roy Lee. I encourage you to go to Cluely.com and sign up for Cluely today." So don't count it out. But anything else you want to share while you're here? I know it's a big day for you. The timeline's blown up. Not very many people have the stones to launch a Series A on a Friday, a summer Friday.
To go head to head against Mira too.
Yeah.
And you pulled it off.
Again, I think people worry too much about the little things. In reality, if you post something that deserves to go viral, you will 100% go viral. And this will only be true for maybe the next few years. Maybe. And I encourage more people to post. Most businesses will die, not because the product sucks, but because you can't get enough eyeballs. And I think if and when we win, we will show to the world that there needs to be a fundamental difference in how companies are built. You start with distribution and eyeballs, because right now that is where the gigantic delta is. And if you can't have that, then
Stick with us for a minute. I want to play your fundraising video live on the stream. And then if we have any questions from that, I want to ask you.
Please.
So let's play the video.
Mr. Lee, Columbia University has found you guilty of academic integrity violations. Do you have anything to say?
Color grade.
Look, I've already apologized to school, but to be honest, in 2 years, nobody's going to think this is cheating.
Yo, the indecent wire just hit. You think it'll last us through the summer?
Welcome to Cluely.
Great video.
Banger.
Great video. Congratulations.
Banger.
I gotta hit the gong again.
Very well done.
Very well done. And beautifully shot. Like the lighting. I mean, the cinematography you have on staff is clearly very, very good. Very, very good. Nailed it. Anything else for Roy?
Yeah,
that's it for now.
In-house studio.
It's crazy that you can shoot that in-house. That really is remarkable. Congratulations.
We are excited to follow the journey.
Shit. We just got $15 million.
Oh yeah, tell us about the fundraising leak. Well, what's your deal with Arthur Rock? Were you able to? How much do you have to pay him to shut up?
Man, I was begging him. You guys have no idea. For the last few weeks, I've been begging this man. Please do not leak it. Do not leak it.
Why? I feel like it already leaked separately, and like I feel like you would be leaning into a leak. I was expecting like a collab almost.
I think whatever leak there could possibly be, I have very strong faith in my ability to make my announcement go more viral.
Oh, sure.
This video will go more viral than any leak would have, even if I tried.
Yeah. That makes sense. So you actually don't want to take the gas out of the tank. I love it. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is fantastic, and good luck.
Congratulations to you and the team. Excited to watch you guys cook this summer. Yeah. And hopefully the 15 mil makes it, back, August. Just remember, August, it's going to be hard to get. The autoresponders will be on. It's going to be hard to get those 24-hour meetings. Yeah. And so just make sure you got the runway to September.
Yeah. And this might come as a shock,
get preempted again,
IPO underwriters do not preempt. So at some point you will have to stop with the preempt everything mantra.
I don't know. There's some SPAC sponsors out there.
Who knows? Maybe you'll get preempted on a SPAC too.
SPAC in the fall. I wouldn't be surprised. So.
You're saying it as a joke. I feel like it might be in the cards. We're going to be tracking it. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Awesome, Roy. Great chatting with you.
We'll talk to you later.
Talk soon.
Bye. In other news, the Los Angeles Lakers has been sold for $10 billion in richest deal in sports history. Guggenheim Partners CEO Mark Walter, who also owns MLB's the Dodgers, is acquiring the storied NBA team in a move that makes it the world's most valuable sports franchise. And it's so funny because like the Wall Street Journal's framing this is like, this is the biggest deal ever. No one's ever done a deal like this. And we're like, wait, so you're talking about like a Series A for like a foundation model company? Like as a tech person, I'm just like, yeah, like $10 billion. Like
$10 billion.
I mean, we should ring the gong, but it's not exactly like the first time. It's not even the first time this show we've heard a decacorn. Congratulations to the Lakers,
Mark Walter, and the whole team.
It's fantastic. Major premium to the Boston Celtics, who sold for $6.1 billion, and now the Lakers is the most valuable sports franchise. But they just don't do enough volume. There's only a couple games. They're not 24/7 like Instagram. Does that ever go offline? No. There's always entertainment. No. Lakers. They're still doing seasons. They need to have 24-hour basketball if they want to really get there.
Around the clock. It's like endurance basketball. It's just a week-long game, Got to always have 5 players on the court.
Just constantly.
Running up.
It's the only option. Jeannie Buss and her family, who have owned the Los Angeles Lakers since Jerry Buss bought the team in 1979. Wow. On Wednesday, agreed to sell majority control of the storied team to Mark Walter, the sports investor. And I looked at the return on investment of owning the Lakers for that 40 years, slightly under S&P 500. Like it was a really, really good deal. And it was a really great company that grew a lot, but it didn't outperform the stock market. Just diversification, bros. DCA, bros, undefeated again. Well, if you're trying to DCA, do it on public.com. Investing for those who take it seriously. Multi-asset investing, industry-leading yields. They're trusted by millions, folks. Anyway, Walter, who is part of the ownership group that owns the Dodgers, has been part of the Lakers since 2021 when he purchased a 27% minority stake in the franchise. He's also a co-owner of Chelsea in the English Premier League, the WNBA's Los Angeles Sparks, and the newly formed Cadillac Formula One team. Let's hear for Cadillac. Let's go.
Let's hear for Cadillac.
Yes, congratulations.
Can't hear you at all. John front run the Cadillac F1 team and got a Cadillac for himself over there. You can see the black.
It's great to have an American F1 team in the business now. Yeah, we've fallen off, but we're coming back.
You're not going to be able to get one of these in the whole country.
I don't think so. They're going to be too popular.
After the F1 team, gets out on.
The sale marks the end of nearly a century of Lakers control by a family that has become synonymous with Los Angeles sports and the glitz of professional basketball. The deal also comes at a time of skyrocketing valuations in professional basketball, which haven't come back to earth since the league announced a media rights deal last year worth $77 billion when the Celtics sold in March. The $6.1 billion valuation exceeded the previous record valuation set for a sports team by the $6.05 billion sale of the NFL's Washington Commanders in 2023. He purchased the Lakers for $67 million in 1979. The team transformed from franchise uprooted from Minnesota into one of the winningest and most valuable sports properties.
I had no idea that they were founded in Minnesota.
That's where the lake name comes from.
Interesting.
Minnesota is the land of 1,000 lakes. They were the Lakers because there's a lot of lakes in Minnesota, and then they just put them to they just brought them to LA and kept the name. But that's what Lakers means. Yeah.
Wow.
The Buss family oversaw the creation of Showtime and presided over the NBA's last three-peat. A-listers like Jack Nicholson and Leonardo DiCaprio have become fixtures at the games. And when they sell merch, they need to pay sales tax. They should get on numeralhq.com, numeralhq.com. Sales tax on autopilot. Spend less than 5 minutes per month on sales tax compliance. All the
they have won
also
11 championships since 1980. Their rosters have boasted many of basketball's brightest stars: Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, and LeBron James. LeBron James' son have all worn the Lakers purple and gold.
I love it. It's such a cool, the father-son duo. I mean, I feel like that should have been a bigger national news story. It's such a cool thing. I think it's not. If they were winning championships together immediately, that might be a different story. But it's just so insane that you could be playing professional basketball
just because
with your son.
You could have earned a better return by DCAing into the stock market.
That's not why people own these assets, though.
Owning the Lakers for a number of decades, I imagine, was absolutely priceless. So great investment.
You get the owner's box.
Great run.
Yeah. All the perks, you have to add those in. What do you get perks from DCAing into the S&P?
I like how Lakers legend Magic Johnson hit the timeline, said, just like I thought when the Celtics sold for 6B, I knew the Lakers were worth 10B.
Let's go. The confidence of Magic Johnson. Great investor, too. He's got a bunch of good stuff in the portfolio. More news on the Scale AI transaction. So it's closed. I believe that Alex Wong has a badge at Meta and shows up to work in Palo Alto and clocks in at Meta HQ now. Scale AI is still an ongoing concern, is still a company, but every competitor is out for blood and they want to take as much of the business as they can, since obviously the perception is that Scale AI will primarily be working with Meta and that other foundation model labs might not want to do business with Scale AI anymore. Yeah. Unclear if they can separate out the businesses, if they can separate them out fully over time and sell the position to other investors, create like a diversified, they could even take the company public, at which point I imagine that it would be a lot less of a conflict of interest or like a fear. But there's been news that OpenAI said, hey, we're not using Scale AI for data anymore because it's too aligned with our competitor, Llama maybe. But everyone's trying to.
Yeah, a lot of this was very predictable. Yeah. Right. I don't think Meta and Scale's teams looked at and said, hey, if we sell right now to Meta, which is competing in open source AI, we're totally going to retain all of our customers, right? Yeah. Like people aren't just going to immediately churn off. Yeah. And no, they were smart enough to know what would happen. And there was an article, I think yesterday, about OpenAI, ending their relationship with Scale, but from what we knew, like they hadn't been doing much for a while. That's part of the reason why Mercor had been.
And they also brought a big function in-house because for some of the more complex tasks, it makes sense to generate the reinforcement learning data yourself. And there's just so many others. There's so many other services. Having like a single point of failure never makes sense for a business of that size, but we'll see. So the information has an article here about a little-known startup that has surged, hint, hint, past Scale AI without any investors. This is interesting. After Meta platform Scale AI deal, data labeling is looking like Silicon Valley's hottest new interest. That's an enormous opportunity for Edwin Chen's Surge AI. For years, data labeling existed in a tucked away corner of Silicon Valley, a critical but unglamorous area of AI where companies like Google and OpenAI hire outside firms to improve their models by laboriously grading the quality of what they produce. Now, a spotlight has unexpectedly fallen onto the field in the wake of Meta Platform's decision to pay $14.3 billion for 49% of Scale AI, the best known data labeling firm. But it's not the largest such firm, nor perhaps the most impressive. That title belongs to Surge AI, founded by Edwin Chen. This is fascinating. I didn't know this. $1 billion in sales last year. Bigger than Scale. Yeah. So Chen's startup has won customers like Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic.
It's such a testament to the idea that, like, sure, you can bootstrap, but it's so incredibly hard to have any hype around your business if you're bootstrapped because you're not having, your investors aren't hitting the timeline for you on a daily basis. And also if you're not trying to raise capital, you have less need to go and be loud and go on podcasts and talk to the press and all this stuff because you're just making a lot of money and sometimes it can be beneficial for people to not know about you.
So this is crazy stats. So Chen is 37. He has no investors and has bootstrapped the 5-year-old startup entirely by himself, which has 110 employees in offices in New York and San Francisco. The company generated more than $1 billion in revenue last year. Surge has told employees a previously reported figure that exceeds the $870 million Scale generated in revenue during the same time period. And unlike Scale, Surge was profitable and has been from the beginning, Chen said. Moreover, Surge could see its sales get even larger if other companies copy OpenAI's decision to stop hiring Scale, a choice made over concerns about Scale's relationship with Meta to shift business to Surge. Other key financial metrics couldn't be learned, like how much revenue Surge keeps after paying its workforce of mostly contractors. So there is a question about like the margin, since this is somewhat of a marketplace business. This could be a situation where, $1,000 contract comes in and $800 of that contract goes to to the actual contractor who's doing the work of the data labeling. But at the same time, even if it's 200 million in net revenue, that's still a huge business. It's hard to imagine Surge not being a fantastic business if they haven't had to raise money. They have 110 employees and they're used by Google and all these major foundation model labs. So it seems like a fantastic business. But if Surge could earn a valuation from investors similar to the one Scale received from Meta, such a price would make Chen a billionaire many times over, at least on paper, and quietly one of the wealthiest people in tech. Interesting. I'm very interested to see what he did before this company. Edwin Chen. I feel like I've heard that name before, but I don't know. As AI models transform from toys into real business tools, data labeling is becoming more and more essential. Contractors hired by companies like Surge grade the responses from AI models and write thousands of questions and answers in fields like programming, math, and law to feed those AI models. And so, if you're, I wonder if this is going to go the route of, you are Deloitte or McKinsey, and you're going to have your team, but then also a company like Surge create a ton of training data around a specific workflow that is costing your business, 20 or 50 or $100 million every year. And then, so it's like, instead of like the AI BDR that's like kind of generically writing emails based on like the average of the entire internet, it's like, no, this is a fine-tuned for your business, perfectly trained, perfectly, and it really distills what you do excellently. I don't know if it'll go that way. I'm interested to talk to people about it. As AI models, so Surge's subsidiary, Data Annotation Tech, says workers get paid to train AI on your own schedule, with wages starting at $20 an hour. Chen has distinguished Surge by making it the high-end shop, charging premium rates, often 2 to 5 times what Scale might bill. Surge justifies the prices with its reputation for industry-leading work. Indeed, one former Scale employee said Surge often performed better than Scale in customer audits of labeling quality. And competitor Garrett Lord, who's coming on the show today, who runs Kleiner Perkins-backed Handshake, readily acknowledged that Chen is the number one player. So I'm excited to talk to Garrett Lord today about this exact topic. Should be very interesting. You wouldn't know that from the coverage of Meta's blockbuster deal to quasi-acquire Scale AI. Its CEO, Alexander Wang, who is now joining Meta in a senior AI role, was widely regarded as the leader of the data labeling field and had become a Silicon Valley celebrity, blanketing podcasts and conferences with his presence and posting heavily on X. It also raised $1.5 billion in venture capital, putting Scale on a very short list of companies that have raised that much, and he hired upwards of 1,000 people. Wang had made time to exit perfectly given the traction of Surge, which had grown larger than Scale without outside capital and with a tiny fraction of Scale's workforce. Scale also missed the goal to hit $1 billion in revenue last year, but Scale spokesperson said the company
Scale
stood
wasn't
behind
profitable either.
It was not profitable.
But
wasn't burning a ton of money. I think they had
they were efficient.
They raised $1.5 billion and they still had like almost $1 billion in cash.
Yeah.
So they weren't in like trouble or anything, but at the same time it was like not a wildly profitable, not a wildly lean business, but I don't know.
What a it's absolutely fascinating to comp these two businesses.
It's a wild industry.
Yeah.
Something that it feels like there's such an edge just to even identifying this opportunity years and years ago. I mean, I guess Surge started 4 or 5 years ago, but it was certainly like pre-ChatGPT that all these companies got started. And then they realized like some of them got started in self-driving car annotation, all sorts of stuff like that. But Chen studied linguistics and math at MIT, came to the idea for his startup after leaving college and witnessing firsthand how big companies struggle with data. Before starting Surge, Chen worked as machine learning engineer at Facebook, Dropbox, Google, and Twitter. He worked at 4 different tech companies. Just like going from one to the next. That's insane. He was developing recommendation and search algorithms and helping gather the data needed to train them. Despite the hefty resources of those companies, Chen encountered a lot of problems. At Facebook, for instance, Chen was tasked with helping build a Yelp competitor. His team needed to train a model that could correctly classify businesses, telling the difference between restaurants and grocery stores, for instance. To do so, they needed a data set containing 50,000 accurately labeled businesses, which he found out would take 6 months for an outside firm to assemble. We had no solution other than waiting. We simply waited. When the data came back, Chen blanched. In some instances, it had labeled restaurants as coffee shops and coffee shops as hospitals. The data was complete junk. He wouldn't say which vendor Facebook had used. In 2020, In 2020, he left Twitter to found Surge and picked up some of his first customers, executives from Airbnb's and Neva, a once promising AI search engine startup, as only a founder in San Francisco might, bumping into them at rock climbing gyms in the city's Dogpatch neighborhood and the Mission District, talking up his startup. To get Surge going, Chen recruited data labeling contractors he knew from his previous roles and funded the startup using his savings. He wouldn't say how much he put in. Fortuitously, Chen focused on language modeling. Scale, by contrast, started out using more visual data for autonomous vehicles, which we talked about, just as those types of models began to grow in importance. Less than a year later, OpenAI had hired Surge to fine-tune its models by teaching them how to avoid producing harmful responses like racially biased language, based on research paper the company published together in by 2022. Anthropic had become a Surge customer.
So they're putting out research papers with OpenAI. And still managed to stay this under the radar.
Wow. Yeah. So look at this. The label largesse. Data labeling has proved to be a lucrative niche in AI. Surge, founded in 2020, has over $1 billion in revenue, zero funding. Scale, founded in 2016, has $870 million in 2024. Raised. This says funding raised, but this is clearly valuation or something because it says 17.4 billion, which is not what they raised. Turing has 300 million annualized, raised 225 million. Invisible.
It's interesting.
Merkle,
Turing too
Circle.
initially was like a marketplace to just hire developers, and I think they pivoted into data labeling.
Interesting. It's the same thing when I work with a cloud provider. The enterprise tech customer said, I don't know the internal expectations for why their services work so well. I push a button and I'm glad for the internal work to make that happen. Data labeling companies typically use various techniques to make sure contractors aren't just dialing it in or phoning it in, I guess, when answering questions. For instance, the companies randomly insert questions that have no correct answers or make sure labelers agree on the right answer to a question. So obviously you scaffold up these like responses so that everything's like double checked, and then you can kind of see if people are messing around. But wow, what a beast of a business. I had no idea how big this thing is. Amazing. Over in defense tech world, Anduril has partnered with Rheinmetall, the German defense tech company, Prime, really, to manufacture Barracuda and Fury over there. That's very exciting. And then we also touched on Spotify founder Daniel Ek.
Guess
Guess
when Rheinmetall was founded.
The way you're saying that makes me think it's like 1650.
I'm putting you on the spot like Tucker put. What's his name?
How can you possibly report on the news if you don't know when it was founded?
This is the best bit earlier. I have to read it out.
Yeah, read the Muffin Man.
Tucker, do you know the Muffin Man? Ted goes, the Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man. No, I don't know him personally. How can you know anything about Drury Lane if you've never met the Muffin Man, John? This is a post from Zach Stewart.
It's a real gotcha.
Really, really good. Anyways, you can still, I give you permission to comment on Rheinmetall,
but give me the
even
year.
though you don't know.
What year?
1889.
I was not, I knew it was really old. 1889?
Dusseldorf.
Okay, I was pretty far off with 1650,
Germany.
but over 100 years. That's the same. It's General Atomic is part of like this roll up, and it came out of like I think General Dynamics at some point, and the company that the founder of the company that competes with Fury for that autonomous program that they're competing for right now, was like the designer of a submarine in the Civil War or something like that. Like I'm pretty sure that he died more than 100 years before Palmer Luckey was born.
Yeah,
that's the cultural difference between the two companies that are competing for this like one contract. It's like a fascinating dynamic about like how legacy they are. Like it's not just like
if you're
50s.
in the game for a while, decades after you start the company, your greatest enemy will be born. And then they'll have to grow up a little bit. They'll have to learn the game. And then they're going to come for you.
It's wild. So Spotify founder Daniel Ek is leading a $600 million funding round into the German defense tech startup Helsing. This is kind of more of an Anduril equivalent over in Europe, valuing that 4-year-old company at $12 billion. The business makes battlefield AI, drones, submarines, and robo-fighter pilots. It's now one of Europe's most valuable startups.
And They're using some renders here, John.
Renders?
Look at this image. They're render maxing.
They're render maxing.
It happens.
Sure?
It is a cool render. Yeah, look at the water there. It's definitely a render.
Who knows? It's hard to tell these days. We're beyond the uncanny valley. And so Helsing is expanding from its origins in artificial intelligence to produce its own drones, aircraft, and submarines as part of a bigger push for locally made and owned defense products for European countries and really companies all over the world.
Crazy. It was founded in 2021.
Wow.
By Torsten Ryle, a video game entrepreneur. Gunbert Scherf, a former German defense ministry official, and Nicholas Kohler, an AI researcher.
Sure.
And they have partnerships with Saab already, as Mistral.
Yeah, and tons of American venture capitalists in the deal. You got Lightspeed, Excel, and General Catalyst.
Connor's cooking.
They've raised over $1.37 billion. The Daniel Ek said the world is being tested in more ways than ever before. That has sped up the timeline for Helsing's financing, Ek said, pointing in particular to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, where drones and other AI-powered systems have been deployed at scale for the first time. There's an enormous realization that it is now really AI, mass, and autonomy that is driving the new battlefield. And so, exciting deal. Up next, we have Catherine Hahn from Hahn Ventures coming in the studio to talk about the stablecoin bill. The Genius bill is slated to pass. It's on the front of the Wall Street Journal today. And
it is the guiding and establishing national innovation for U.S. stablecoins.
We had her on the show, and we're excited to talk to her. So welcome to the show. How are you doing, Catherine?
What's going on?
Hi, how are you guys?
We are great.
Big 24 hours.
Congratulations, I think, are in order, but please get us up to speed on what's actually happening and where things are in Washington.
And I love that you called me Catherine. That was my Washington name. I haven't been called that since I used to appear in court. But Katie.
Let's update the Chiron. Katie Hahn.
So thanks for having me on, guys. Actually, I literally just walked off a plane. I was down at the COTU conference.
Wow.
Nice.
Where I was talking to a lot of founders, crypto and non, and everyone loves your show. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, thanks for making the time.
Yeah, thanks. I think congratulations are in order. I don't know if I would say that yet. I mean, first of all, the bill passed through the Senate. Great news, obviously. It's another signal, I think, kind of like I feel like I did when ETFs were approved. By the way, not really by the SEC, although that was the body that formally approved it. But as I said last time I was on your show, guys, make no mistake, the DC Circuit, that Article 3, that other branch of our government, left the SEC no choice. The courts don't always get it right, but sometimes they do. And the courts unanimously in that case said that the SEC had acted arbitrarily and capriciously. So to my mind, the court system is the reason we have ETFs in this country today for Bitcoin and for ETH. And I think of this as a similar thing. Now, here we have another branch of government stepping in. In this case, you have the Senate passing this introducing this legislation, passing this legislation. Now, of course, the House has to vote on it, and then the president has to sign it into law. So if those two things happen, you can say congratulations are in order for the industry. But I think one thing that is not really being discussed, and I hope we can discuss today, is there's another very important bill. And I'm not going to slap a percentage on and say which bill is more important, but that's the market structure bill. And to me, that's really the transformational bill for the crypto industry.
Okay, so break that down for us.
Yeah, so there's one bill, stablecoin bill, as you just mentioned, that the Senate passed. And one of the things that I loved to see about that is the bipartisan support for that bill, because I think we used to be, as an industry, pre-political. Brian Armstrong always talked about the industry being pre-political. And I don't want it to be the case that this industry is too political on one side or the other. So I really love to see these moments like we saw yesterday in the Senate, where you have a number of Senate Democrats voting in favor of sensible rules of the road. And I think this is a classic example of that. So I'm delighted, and I hope the House passes it. But I don't see why we have to choose between just a stablecoin bill and the market structure bill. And the stablecoin bill obviously paves the way for a regulatory framework for stablecoins in this country. So that's that. But then there's another bill, the market structure bill. And that kind of will answer or attempt to answer the question of what's a security, what's a commodity. And I know you guys have been covering crypto for long enough. You know this is kind of an age-old debate. And, where can there be an enforcement action? Well, the big question is, well, what's a security and what's not? And I think the market structure really goes a long way in answering that question. And that's why I think it's so fundamental. And we've seen courts across the country weigh in on that question. And that's because we don't have legislation. And Gary Gensler said it was all so clear, and of course it wasn't all so clear.
Yeah. So what's the timeline there? What are the different players? What do people want out of it? What is the core kind of crypto industry, and both on the investor side and company side, want out of it, and who would not want it to go through, at least how the crypto side has it in mind?
Look, I think everyone in the crypto industry wants the stablecoin bill to go through and become law. I don't think there's really any question about that. The question is, do you go for both? Someone just described it to me as in a sports analogy, and I'll probably fumble that one, but it was like, do you go for the field goal or do you go for the touchdown? And the thing about after a field goal, the other side gets the ball back. And I think Congress really operates in kind of 6 to 10 year windows. And, it's on their mind, reform, regulatory clarity for crypto right now. And I think the transformational bill for crypto right now is very much that market structure bill. We also want that stablecoin bill. And we have this unique moment in time where we have bipartisan support for both bills. So personally, I say go for both of them. And worst case, you end up getting the stablecoin bill only. But I do think that's not the most desirable outcome for the crypto industry. I think the crypto industry deserves, especially after years of uncertainty, both a clear message from Congress. I think Congress ought to do its job and pass both bills. And I especially think that because after the Supreme Court last summer, in a case I said that this was the most important case for technology policy, not for just crypto, but for tech policy in decades, was the overturning of the Chevron doctrine. And that takes power kind of away at a high level, away from regulatory agencies, and puts it back more in the hands of the courts. And do we want to have another 10 years of litigation percolating up from the district to the appellate court to the Supreme Court on what's a security or what's a commodity, and a patchwork of different answers throughout the country? Or do we want Congress to answer that question for us now? And I think it's incumbent for Congress to answer that question now. You asked what does the industry want? I think this is a big industry. We say crypto's not a monolith. It's a broad new asset class, and stable coins are a very big, important piece of that asset class, and a growing piece. As you guys saw, I shared with you the stats, almost $250 billion. I think you banged the gong for that stat, locked in supply, growing enterprises, across the world integrating stable coins. You probably saw those announcements from some of the big tech companies in the last few weeks. And I think one thing that everyone's wondering is, those ones that haven't yet dived in for stable coins, is, well, what are the rules? So this bill that was passed yesterday out of the Senate, the Genius Act, is so important for that. It's like, here you go. And so what kind of institutional interest will be unleashed once that bill becomes law? I think that's really exciting.
What's how do you think about big companies getting excited about stablecoins and thinking, or institutions and being like, there's a lot of potential here, we should create our own stablecoin, versus we should just figure out how to leverage this technology? Where do you see the kind of line and opportunities?
Well, look, we already have two very dominant stablecoins, right, already today. Tether, USDT. And then we have USDC. So clearly it's not winner take all. I mean, those two are both growing and they both have market share. So we think there will be stable coins like those that will have network effects. But we also think at the same time, there are some businesses that are just so big and just so important. And if they launch their own stable coin, we could also see that too. I don't think we see a world where everyone, I think we get asked this question all the time, is there going to be a world where every company has their own stable coins? We don't think so. we could be wrong, but that's not the view of how we see this evolving. We do.
Yeah, we had Aaron Frank from Lightspeed on earlier, and he was comparing certain companies would launch a stablecoin, and it maybe would feel like Cole's Cash, where it's like,
good point. I don't have any of that, nor do I. I don't have any of that, and that's the thing. If I did, would you want to use it on other platforms, right?
Yeah, I mean, every bank could launch a Visa network competitor theoretically, but that doesn't necessarily make sense.
Yeah. So in your mind, is the broader market structure bill the kind of thing that could catalyze a massive amount of new activity? And from my view, stablecoins have been getting adoption. There are a bunch of exciting use cases. We have a public American stablecoin, issuer in Circle now. It feels like, yes, regulatory clarity is important there, but having broader clarity around how tokens are treated by, how the government actually views tokens feels like it could catalyze, much more of an explosion in investment activity and new company formation and new use cases for tokens. Is that the right framework?
I think that is the right framework because, like I said, stablecoin's a big, important piece of the pie. And very low-hanging fruit, by the way, to my mind. But crypto as an asset class is much broader. So when you say, where do the industry players, where do the crypto investors, where do we want to see it? I don't think it's a monolith. I think crypto, as it grows to a multi-trillion-dollar asset class, like any multi-trillion-dollar asset class, you have different factions. And I think some fairly, and some really smart people think, just take this win and move on and don't worry about the rest. And I think that's I see why they might think that if they think that it's this or nothing, but I think that's a false choice. I think that we can have both. And this is a really opportune moment to have both. And I think the question that has beleaguered the industry really has been the question over securities, commodities, which agencies are going to have jurisdiction. I think that's a bigger question. And I think it would be a real shame if we let this moment go to waste. The irony too, so you have some stablecoins who are only stablecoin companies who are like, yep, Genius Act and move on. They don't want to get dragged into this broader kind of a more omnibus package, right?
Yeah.
With the market structure legislation. But I think that's a missed opportunity. And I think we'll be sorry as an industry if we don't go for both now. Again, go for the touchdown. And with, I think like I told you, all of the fundamentals are kind of working all at once together now when I last talked to you guys. Yeah. And this is very much part of it. So why would we not go for that? So I think some folks who don't maybe have an appreciation for how, sometimes, sorry to say it, slow Congress operates. They've been trying to update the money laundering laws for 2 decades. And it's like out of sight, out of mind sometimes. And I think we have a really unique moment to press for both here. And the irony is some Democrats who are opposed to market structure, because of potential abuses, or who are opposed to the crypto industry. They cite abuses, they cite fraud, they cite speculation, they cite Trump coin. And I get all of those criticisms, but I'll tell you what, had the market structure bill been passed, that would have answered a lot of those questions. The irony is if you would have had the market structure bill, you wouldn't have had a lot of the blowups that you've had in the past several years in this industry.
Is crypto truly coming home to America? We went through a period where crypto is being pushed offshore. We've heard over the last year that some crypto founders feel like they can come back to the States now, maybe actually have an office stateside. Are you seeing more and more momentum there with some of this positive regulatory movement? Or are you still seeing momentum around places offshore, Singapore, et cetera?
I think, look, everywhere that you're going to want to develop is going to have some rules that you're going to have to follow. When I hear founders who say there is no it's often that's going to be the answer that there is no regulatory regime whatsoever. Sorry, Balaji, if you're watching. But I am seeing that onshoring a bit. We were kind of seeing the offshoring in an unfortunate way, but it's not only regulation that matters. It's hiring top talent. And certainly there's top talent right here in Silicon Valley and other places in the world. I mean, you mentioned Singapore. Singapore has top talent to be sure, but there's a lot going for the U.S. So we're still very optimistic. And I don't think but we were getting to a very dangerous point with the crypto industry. Had the likes of Gensler and others like him been left kind of to just do this. Now, fortunately, the courts were pushing back. So it wasn't a partisan issue. It was just the courts were starting to say, no, you've gone too far. I mean, I lost track now. I literally lost track of how many federal courts of all political persuasions and appointments ruled against Gensler's regime. And not just Gensler, but others like it, where you had very activist regulators who were really far out of their lane. And you saw courts curbing back on that. So I think that was already, we're in a dangerous spot, but the courts were maybe going to save us. But you don't only want to rely on litigation to save you, of course, because then you've already lost. But I think hiring talent is important. I think, access to capital and traditional venture, maybe that's a little different in the crypto asset class. But I think also fundamentally what you have going on right here now with AI, particularly in Silicon Valley, and we've talked a little bit at the early stage about some of the synergies between AI and crypto, because of course AI creates digital abundance and blockchains are good at enforcing digital scarcity. And I think you're going to see more and more synergies emerge and use cases over time. And I'm not going to say what they are because, we've seen that before in crypto. A lot of over-promising, under-delivering on use cases. So let's just stick to right now, we see synergies. There's a lot happening in Silicon Valley, obviously, with AI. We think that's going to benefit the crypto industry. And so in addition to regulatory clarity, if you're a founder, you want access to great talent. You want your visa situations sorted out for your employees. You want access to other founders. Depending on what type of company you are, you want access to capital. So I am optimistic about the state of crypto in the US, but also elsewhere. And we invest in companies. We invested in Squads. We've announced that. Awesome. And I know Stepan, one of the founders of Squads, watches your show. But Stepan's based right now overseas. And I was just having a conversation with him about how do we get you to come and bring Squads to the US?
Awesome. Wow.
I want to talk about the longer tail of regulation because it seems like the stablecoin bill is very straightforward, like the least ambiguity there. Then you have the Market Structure Act, and there's a lot more to do there. But I'm sure that there's like riders getting pitched and all sorts of long tail things. Like, how much are we actually like? Where does the line end between what we're actually trying to define versus what we're still in the exploration phase of? Because you have NFTs, crypto gaming. There's prediction markets. There's so many different crypto applications that trying to kind of do them all at once. Maybe that's the right approach. Maybe these need to be handled like after we've done the technological exploration. But what's your view on kind of the long tail?
My view on that is no, because we can't have an NFT bill, a bill for bank contracts, or we can't have specific bills. And if you think back to the advent of the internet, that's not what we had. We had Section 230. It applied broadly to platforms, and I think we need something similar here. So on the one hand, I would say it can't be so specific that it's like, okay, if you're a events contract platform, it's this rule. And if you're an NFT player, because again, we don't even know yet what will be created really at the end of the day. We've seen some early use cases with product market fit. Obviously, chief example of that is Bitcoin. But what if we had this conversation, guys, back in 2010, and you said, okay, we've got Satoshi's white paper and there's this thing called Bitcoin. Let's pass some crypto regulation. It would have just been for Bitcoin. And that would have been a mistake because then a couple of years later on the scene, we have ETH. Then a few years later, we have Solana. So I think what we need to do, so you don't wait for the end state to have any regulation, right? You don't do regulation by enforcement. I can tell you what we don't do. We don't do regulation by enforcement. You don't wait till the end state of things, but nor do you want to get so with such specificity today and do the current state of regulation by the end state of regulation. That you can't do either. And so I think what you have are some guiding principles, some generic rules of the road, and really that's all the market structure bill is. And there's enough clarity that you had Democrats vote for it last time it came up. So it's not like it's so specific. It talks about, and I think you have people like Hester Peirce, who is SEC commissioner, has written and given speeches on this, of what that ought to look like. What is a decentralization test? And those are some guiding principles that you can kind of look at and apply as you think through this legislation. What body ought to regulate it? And sure, you're gonna have some outliers and new technologies emerge that you're like, okay, does this fit neatly in the bill? No, but we have laws for everything in this country with technologies that develop that don't fit neatly in a particular bill. And that's why we don't do regulation by enforcement.
Yeah.
We do notice and comment. We do things like advisory opinions. Certain bodies, by the way, do advisory opinions, not judges. And then if all else fails, you do go and sometimes seek Article 3, seek a judicial interpretation. But I think that's, like I said, that's kind of the failure state if you're having to go to the courts. But indeed, that's what was happening because we were getting no rules of the road and we were only getting unfair regulation by enforcement. And I say unfair because Gary Gensler basically picked what should have been the best companies in crypto, the poster children for compliance, and brought enforcement actions against them. And then the complete spectacular disasters didn't bring anything. So until after the fact. And so I think regulation by
we gotta have you. We gotta have you and Gary on the show to hash it out. I'm sure you guys have had some funny conversations.
Thank you so much for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me.
Great having you. Have a good rest of your day.
Soon. Cheers.
Okay, bye-bye.
Up next, we have Justine Moore from Andreessen Horowitz. Incredible map knowledge. Dropped a fantastic
new market map
all around AI image, AI video models. We're going to have her take us through it. Welcome to the show. How are you doing? Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Hello.
Oh, I can hear you guys now. Sorry.
There we go.
Hey.
I was saying to John when you dropped your new market map, I was saying, it's a great sign of respect in our culture to drop a new market map and come on the show. So
I've
we're
been
honored.
incredibly bullish on market maps. I find them extremely interesting, and I think they got a bad rep a couple years ago, but I'm glad that you've stayed the course.
We are strongly pro market map.
Yes.
The people love market maps. It's like you can guarantee a popular tweet if it has a market map in it.
Absolutely. And I think people got kind of sick of we know the playbook, we've seen it, but there's a playbook for a reason. It works.
Yes.
Take us through the latest market map. What are you tracking? How did you decide what to divide it up into, and what kind of inspired this moment specifically?
Yes. So I mostly do AI creative tools here at A16Z. So I spend all my time testing all of the image, video, audio, etc. And obviously the past few months in particular, video has been the thing. Yeah. There's been VO3, obviously, which was a massive moment with adding the audio for the generations. Yeah. Hydra around the talking characters, the new Minimax model, the new ByteDance model, Seed Dance, which is in the arena already outperforming VO3. So it just felt like a good time to refresh sort of what's going on in the video space. And I kind of formatted this market map just thinking about more from the perspective of a creator, less in terms of the go-to-market of the company, more just if you're a person trying to create a video with AI, where would you go for these different use cases? So there's first sort of the model, the foundation model companies, where it's either text to video or image to video. Most places do both. Where they actually take your input, have their own proprietary model that generates the video for you. So that's the VOs, the Klings, the Runways, the Pikas. And then there's also now this emergence of what I call multi-model apps, places like Krea and Flora and Visual Electric that enable you to run a bunch of models in one place. So if you want to take a single prompt or a single image and see what it looks like in 5 different models super easily, you can do it somewhere like that. And then the other side of this market map is sort of what happens when you add speech and talking characters. And so some folks do that by generating a talking avatar from an image where you can eventually have the person move. And other folks do that by taking a video of a person and then applying lip sync over it and then syncing the audio. So that's sort of the distinction between talking avatars and lip sync.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're in the consumer group because I can imagine that a lot of the talking avatar companies wind up selling to corporations that want to vend in talking avatars, for example. Are you seeing a lot of that, or I guess how rigorous or stringent are founders about hey, we are trying to build a consumer app, or we're just building a cool technology and it might land as a consumer product, but it also might land as a B2B play?
Most people are not at all rigorous and often don't even know at the beginning.
Yeah,
so what we actually saw with the first generation of AI video was it was only researchers making these like magical models, and they had no idea what the use cases were going to be. They all just put like a text prompt box in front of the model, and then you got an output, and like a big company and an individual were using the exact same interface. Now I think we're starting to see more at like what we call the app layer, which is essentially like, how do you productize this? How do you create workflow? And therefore, how do you go into specific verticals? Maybe an example of that is all of the like standalone video ad creation products. So things like Creatify or Captions, where, or HeyGen has a product for this too, where you can literally just like paste in a link to your Amazon or Shopify store. It will pull all of the info about your product, your logo, your brand, and it will generate a talking head avatar like holding your product and describing it. And that's something that like a VO3 or a Kling, the general video model companies won't do today.
Yeah. Where are you seeing the strongest like low churn adoption of these tools? Because just personally, like VO3 was the thing that got me to subscribe to Google Pro Max 25, which we can go into the names and how difficult it is to access these. But other than that, I haven't seen that many where like we've seen the ASMR stormtroopers or something, but it hasn't been clear to me that someone's building like the next Pixar and they're actually thinking about it like Mr. Beast, and they're like, I'm building a studio, this is a business, I have ad integrations and I have a content schedule. It's very much in like the testing phase. We see the Studio Ghibli moments go viral. So where is like the true long-term value playing out right now?
Okay, on the content creation side, where we are at right now is actually there's a bunch of content agencies, like, you know, there's a bunch, Wonder Studios, Dream Studios, there's probably like 20 of them now. One called Paracosm, that's really cool. And these are people who are just early adopters of the tools, and they're getting hired by brands and ad agencies and entertainment companies to use the tools for them and make content. I think the problem now in what you're describing is like, the people at Pixar would have to know how to use the AI video tools and how to set up the workflow in order to create their next movie using AI. And we're not yet at like, the tools aren't mature enough, and we don't have enough people who are working at those entertainment companies who know how to use the tools, that it's primarily being done with these external AI native agencies or contractors today. I think like one of the first AI IP we've seen is the Italian brain rot characters. I don't know if you guys...
No, I don't know this. I haven't seen
the
this.
Italian brain rot characters are huge. So I can't even say the names here because they will sound ridiculous. But it's people basically making images of like an animated talking baseball bat and like a ballerina whose head is like a cup of cappuccino. And a shark who wears sneakers.
But they're starting to build like a cinematic universe.
Oh, it's massive. Yeah. The accounts have like millions of followers.
The world isn't ready for Italian brain rot.
Wait, so is it like decentralized in the sense that like I could just go and participate in this like broader trend?
So yes and no. I would say there were a couple accounts that originated the first few characters, and then other people started participating using the hashtags remixing. And then the characters that were good that came out of that sort of bubbled up to become part of the cinematic universe.
The canon.
They have Bombadiro Crocodillo, which is a bomber.
He's a crocodile plane that shoots bombs.
This sounds like super super viral. Yes, like, the kids probably love it. It's wild. Before we go into more of the consumer side, talk to me about some of the more like niche like B2B use cases, because I remember when like GPT 3.5 and we got GPT-4 dropped, there were still like a lot of hallucinations, but you saw companies that were just like, sure, it's not incredible at writing poetry, but it's amazing at just like converting this messy text to JSON, and they were all of a sudden just running tons and tons of queries. And so I would imagine that in a video workflow, things like what Runway was doing in the old days of just like green screening, or the stuff that like artists aren't going to really get upset about because it just feels like a better, more advanced tool. Are a lot of these companies building tools like that, or is all the focus just on like, let's one shot the next Oscar film?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a decent amount of vertical focus. I think also like it's very hard for startups, like if you're not a Google or an OpenAI or whoever, to play in the game of like, let's train the largest one-shot best video model.
Yep.
So a lot of them are focusing on verticals, like Luma, which is a company we've invested in, did this really cool tool where you can upload like a 9:16 like iPhone style video, and you can just say extend, and it just basically like outpaints around the existing video and makes it look like, so you can just change the dimensions of your video really fast.
Yeah.
Or there's companies
more
like
of just like a practical tool, but super useful for a bunch of creators that are filming vertical content probably, and they want to distribute in a horizontal format, so they just do that.
Yes, exactly.
That makes a ton of sense.
Or something like Higgsfield that it has all these really special effect like motion LoRa's essentially. So you can take like an image of a car and just say like, this is like, here's a template of what a car explosion looks like, make this specific car explode. And then on the B2B side, we've seen a lot around like, how do you scale marketing or L&D or like executive presence type content? So like, you know, tools like Descript now allow you to take a video of someone talking and then change the word that they're saying by changing, like cloning their voice, having them the voice say the new word, and then doing a new lip dub.
New lip sync,
So you could have your CEO sending what looks like a personalized holiday message to like every single customer or something like that.
Yep, or maybe something worse with a phishing scam, but I'm sure we'll get into safety at some point.
What do you think the long-term ambitions of companies like Google with VO and ByteDance with their model? What do you think they want out of this category? They obviously have a massive edge. I saw Anish was posting about Google's edge or YouTube's edge around IP with VO. You can generate
what was going on there?
It's crazy.
The Disney thing, is that like a real deal, or is that just a beneficiary of like some sort of relationship? Or?
Yeah, and then I want to get a sense of do Google and ByteDance, do they want to be developer tools that just vend into a bunch of these platforms? Do they actually want to own the end customer? What is this market? Is there a generalized market in the long run of just generating funny videos for the average consumer? Or is it going to all be verticalized out where I want to generate ads? I maybe want to generate, customized messages, but I want to understand, like, this is a good overview of all the ways that you can generate content, but like, how does the market structure evolve?
Yes. Okay. On the IP question, I have not talked to Google's IP lawyers, and I'm not an IP lawyer, but my understanding is Google.
But this is legal advice, right?
Yeah, exactly. This
and
is
financial advice. All the above.
Our compliance team is going to love this.
Yeah, they're going to love it.
It's sarcasm.
You can. I think my sense is basically, when YouTube came about, it was suddenly like all this IP content is on the internet, and Google cut deals with a bunch of the IP owners about essentially what can be posted on various Google properties, and if that content gets monetized, how it ends up going to the end rights holder. And so that's sort of the working theory right now about like why VO3 can generate IP content and not get sued when a lot of other people are struggling with that. In terms of the market dynamics, it's so fascinating, the question around like Google and ByteDance and eventually I think Facebook, I hear, is going to do more in video soon as well. Like why they're doing it and what their strategy is. I think first of all, like if I'm one of those huge consumer giants, AI is such a massive shift in consumer behavior that like if you want to own the interface to consumers, you probably want to own text, image, and video generation as well. And they have the resources in terms of data, like YouTube, for example, is a perfect example of this. They have a ton of compute, they have a ton of money, and they can hire the best researchers to build the best models. I think the question, as you sort of alluded to, is like, do they sell those models via API and let other people build the consumer experience on top of them, or do they own the end-to-end consumer experience? My honest take on it so far has been like, it takes so long in the big company product teams to get stuff done and get new products out that like the model teams are just shipping the models in like pretty basic interfaces like Google Flow. And then the product teams are going to figure out if they can catch up with some kind of cool new consumer app later.
My question is like, how much, what will the market actually look like for the average consumer wanting to generate images and video, or will it just be something that people default to ChatGPT because maybe they already have a subscription or they're fine with the free tier, and it doesn't there ends up being a bunch of different applications on the enterprise B2B side, but then not so many like, core consumer subscriptions on just like cool videos, pictures, etc.
I mean, it seems like it's a killer moat for Google Cloud Platform to have VO3 as an API, even if Google can't figure out how to productize it fully. It's like they do seem to have a real moat. I want to get into that about YouTube is obviously an incredible training data resource.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there was another company that just surpassed them. Was it Tencent, you said?
ByteDance.
ByteDance, that's right. So I have a question about that because obviously with CodeGen, GitHub has a lot of public repos that people can probably just scrape. It's also just not that much data. You can probably fit it on a couple hard drives, maybe sneak it out the back and go ahead a flight and train somewhere in Malaysia or something. You can't do that with YouTube. Like, it's just too much data. And so my question is how durable, how much should we be thinking about a durable data moat in video generation for YouTube? Because it seems like something that they could really clamp down on and would give them a durable advantage. But I don't know, there's so many other ways to attack any of these model developments.
Totally.
That there's a lot of different options.
So there's a couple parts of the data question.
Yeah.
The first part is like, what do you own versus what do you scrape? I mean, we've seen companies like OpenAI will scrape YouTube as well to train their models.
Yeah.
I think ByteDance also, like, here we think of YouTube and Facebook and whatever here in the US, I mean, as being the big hosts of content, but like there's all these massive companies in China like ByteDance who have their own have their own user generated content on like their version of TikTok and their version of YouTube and their
I'm sure there's reposts of American videos over there. So it's not like it even has a unique flavor. It probably can generalize pretty well, right?
Totally. Though, like I was one of the very early users of all of the Chinese video models when you still had to access them on Chinese apps with Chinese phone numbers. Wow. And they were definitely very good at things that were more China oriented than the US models.
That makes a ton of sense.
Okay. The other thing that's important to mention on data is in video in particular, it's not just the volume of data, it's also the quality of data and the quality of data labeling. Because essentially you can't just feed a video into a video model and assume it can understand what's going on and pull out the relevant info. You have to have really sort of dense labels is what we call them, or super detailed captions about like, this is this style shot from this sort of camera. The camera is coming from this angle. This is the sort of character. This is how the character is interacting with the background. And that quality data is what drives quality in the video models. And China has really benefited there because there's so many more PhDs than there are here. And it's much cheaper for these companies to hire them to do these dense labels for the video data.
Yeah, well, how does Midjourney fit into all of this now? It's such an interesting company because no venture dollars, this like behemoth kind of quietly hiding in a Discord server still. I saw some examples of video. It looked fantastic. Seemed like they hadn't added audio yet, but how do they fit into the whole piece? Because it seemed like early on they developed a really great feedback loop for the data that maybe wasn't happening with some of the other model providers.
Yeah. So the Midjourney model came out this morning, really conveniently, like 10 minutes after I put out my market map without Midjourney video because it's not yet available. I was just playing around with it too. It's really cool. They do image to video, and so they don't do text to video, which is actually sort of easier. They can start with the super high quality images that they generate on the platform and then animate those. I think they have like a low motion and a high motion setting. From what I've tested so far, it's better as sort of like a low motion scenery environment, light interaction type thing. Like you have a photo of a person and you can then animate sort of rain and wind and them walking slowly. And it's not as good at like what I call physics heavy world model type things, like two cars running into each other and exploding. That sort of thing requires a very, very large and costly, usually like text to video model that is more difficult to train. Whereas Midjourney, I mean, I have no idea how they did it. It's a great model. They could have taken one of the open source image to video models and fine-tuned it on all their own data. Yeah.
I've noticed VO3 is really, really good with some of that physics stuff, but it still gets confused. Like if a car is driving away, all of a sudden you'll be looking at the front of the car and then the back of the car and it'll get kind of mixed up. But yeah.
Are you as all these different models have progressed, I always remember Brud and Trevor McFedries and just how early he was to what I think will be this like new wave.
Is that Lil Miquela?
Yeah, Lil Miquela, which was like basically a CGI influencer. So very, very early. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. And we've seen some of this to date, but do you expect that to be kind of like a new like how bullish are you on sort of like entirely AI creators getting real adoption, followings turning into real businesses? I'm sure you follow a bunch of them already.
Yeah, I'm personally super excited about it because it kind of separates the content from the character. Like now, before AI, if you were on Instagram, like you were both the character and the person coming out with the content. And so you had to like look in a way and present yourself in a way and talk in a way that was like interesting to the Instagram algorithm. And now it's like anyone with a good idea can create a compelling character. And so I think some of those are human characters. I've already seen way too many examples in my Reels feed of OnlyFans models who promote themselves with AI avatars of themselves now, which works shockingly well. There's some photorealistic human influencers, but honestly, some of the more interesting ones are things that could never be influencers before AI. So there's one called like Raccoon Stole My iPhone, and it's an AI raccoon influencer. There's like AI capybara influencers. There's like mystical creatures, like all of these things that just come out of people's imagination.
Competing for mindshare with Instagram pet pages, dog pages, things like that. Did you have a reaction to Fountainhead? It was Mountainhead, not Fountainhead. Mountainhead, the movie. The core overarching theme was that basically deep fakes or AI generated content had gotten so good that it was causing global unrest. Did it resonate at all? It does feel like I now have multiple times a day I'm seeing content online and it's like we're both in the community notes program, so it's like you see content getting community noted. One person says it's not real, look at this link, it was this image, they redid it. Another person says it's real, look at this link. So it's like I just assume that everything's fake and made up unless I see it with my own eyes. But I'm curious if it resonated at all with you.
So I largely consume AI slop, so I have not seen the movie. I should watch it soon.
You should watch the movie, the motion picture on slop.
Yeah. Once they have that, I will watch the full film. But it's so interesting. We talked about this a lot actually with audio models with the last like election cycle, because video I think wasn't there yet to have convincing deepfakes. But audio, like there were way less cases of, even though you could make really realistic voices, cloning candidates and saying things that weren't true, there were way less examples than we thought of that actually like impacting any election in any sort of meaningful way. And I think part of it is like things like you mentioned, the community notes program, where like you have sort of citizen watchdogs on various platforms saying this is real, this isn't real, running them through various sort of AI detectors. But I also think like people are starting to develop more skepticism around everything they see online and whether or not it is real, which is probably not a terrible thing.
Yeah, I had this take that After Effects would be more impactful on the election than AI video because like you can just show a clip of a burning building from 2020 and it's real video, but you recontextualize it and say, oh, the Capitol's burning or something, and it's from years ago, or just speed up a video, slow it down, edit it out. They would do this with various politicians. Cut out the ums and uhs, and they'll sound sharper. Add a bunch of gaps, and all of a sudden they sound like they're slower.
Yeah, it even we're here in LA, and when all the imagery was coming out of the protests from a couple weeks ago, it was like burning Waymos. Kind of looks like something you generate with VO3, just because it was so symbolic and just such a crazy image. And then like make an image of a guy with a Mexican flag riding doing burnouts around a car that's on fire, and it's like that looks like,
and even just the way that was photographed, there was like, it looked like all of Los Angeles was engulfed in flames, but it was really like one crazy block with a bunch of different angles and then a bunch of different posts, and you drive around and you'd be like, oh, well, there's not that much.
That's the other interesting thing is like even real footage can be manipulated.
Totally.
Like any kind of story can be manipulated in a way like AI or
not. Are you seeing I think like, there's exciting companies like WorldCoin, doing like proof of human. Yeah. Are you seeing any infrastructure players trying to do anything on like content verification side and like trying to create some sort of mechanism to prove whether something was like authentic, actually shot on an iPhone, right?
Right.
Proving through the metadata and some type of like public setting. Is there any pitches from that side?
Yeah. So largely, honestly, today that has come in two places. One is the model companies themselves will often watermark the content in some way, like the VO3 generations has a little VO3. 11 Labs, which does the audio, they actually have a site where you can upload any audio and it will tell you if it was generated with 11 Labs or not.
That's cool.
Which is pretty cool. The other place we've seen development there is for like prominent individuals, like, celebrities or someone there's like value behind their brands and who potentially even might want to monetize it in the age of AI. Like if you're an actor and you suddenly don't have to, fly back to LA when you're filming a movie in Australia to tape like 5 ads for some cell phone brand, and you can have your AI avatar generated to do it instead, and it looks just as good. Like you might actually want to, have some licensing company that owns your AI licensing rights, whether it's your traditional talent agency or not, who can manage that for you.
Yeah, totally.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. We could talk for another hour. I have so many more questions in our doc, but we'll have to have you back. So thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Justine.
We'll talk to you soon.
Great chatting. Have a good one. More breaking news. Nvidia to drop humanoid robots that will produce Nvidia GB300 chips in Q1 of 2026. Nick says, holy based.
That is so
Nvidia
close.
And Foxconn in talks to deploy humanoid robots at Houston AI server making plant.
Wow, that is extremely
I don't
close.
totally understand this.
What does that mean?
I guess Foxconn has been training the robots to pick and place objects and insert cables.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is marketing.
It feels like
we've asked a bunch of robotics experts about humanoids, and so far I haven't got I don't have the confidence that this is actually a super great use case for them.
It's just the definition of like what is humanoid, because you go to like a Ford F-150 factory and they have like massive robotic arms like moving windshields around, right? Like it's like you could anthropomorphize that by like spray painting it pink and putting some hair on the hand and being like it's a humanoid now, But like you could like retrofit.
Just give it more bicep definition.
Totally. I mean, like Amazon has like tons of robots sliding around. You could put googly eyes on them and be like they're humanoids now, and you'd maybe get like a stock bump. But like there's clearly things that are happening in the AI server assembly process that are using robotics. Obviously, whether it's even just like conveyor belts or the 3-axis pick and place, pick it up, put it over here, that type of stuff. Just going to humanoids is just, it's like, well, will it have 5 fingers or will it have just a grabber? Will it have legs or will it have wheels? Like it could just be sitting there, because for a lot of these pick and place jobs, you can just have the humanoid sit there with a single arm mounted to the ground because the stuff comes to it. And so then you're just kind of in okay, we're in the arm business now. It feels like it's a little bit wrapped in marketing lingo, but still cool that more companies are making humanoids, because it does seem like a cool form factor that hopefully people will break through and get there. And this seems like a step in the right direction in the sense that it's a very defined task. I think when people think humanoids, they think some like my new Turing test is humanoid robotics will be here, and when they can put up a 6-minute Nürburgring time in a manual.
Yeah, gated manual.
In a gated manual. Because at that point, they have to not just be a self-driving car, but they have to be able to, negotiate the wheel and the stick shift so efficiently and so quickly that they are truly performing.
Yeah, and a manual can be weirdly like probabilistic, right? And that like you're like you can move the
synthesize a lot of data.
Yeah, it's not like perfect system, right?
You're not gonna put up a sub 7-minute Nürburgring time with a Joe Biden walk.
That's right.
You're gonna have to be moving fast. Those actuators are going to have to be
that's right,
high speed. So yeah, I don't know where all this goes, but I mean, exciting to see that they're at least doing work on it, because it seems like an important. It's clearly an important path in the tech tree. We don't know how relevant it is to other formats, but cool to see a lot of money pouring into the sector from very big companies.
So Foxconn will be announcing their robots in November and then deploying them shortly after. In our year 2026.
I mean, Foxconn seems like the right builder for this. Unitree is already feels like it's scaling up to the point where Unitree robots should be usable in certain locations. Like they're not generalizable yet, but they're certainly, if you train them on a specific task, they could do that task over and over and over again. The question is just do you need 5 fingers, 10 fingers, 10 toes? Is that really the right form factor, or should we be just doing things that are more specified? Because if the whole point of these humanoid robots is just AI server making, just assembly, just one spot on the manufacturing line, could probably be a much more specialized robot.
Yeah.
But will be cool to see. I'm sure we'll see a lot of viral videos about it. It'll be very cool. Anyway.
I invested in a company making robots for data centers, and they intentionally chose not to make it a humanoid form factor. And I think a lot of those, the reason behind that decision would also transfer to manufacturing setting, right?
Yeah.
Which is do you need legs if you can use wheels?
Data centers have the most perfectly polished floors with no dust at all.
Yeah.
It's the perfect environment for a wheeled use case. At the same time, you probably need to have a very specific actuator for unplugging and plugging the cable back in, right?
Yep.
And that's actually it's pretty hard to reach around the back of a computer and unplug an Ethernet cable. And obviously the server racks are designed to be worked on more, but still even the cabling is very detailed work. And so if that's what they're trying to do, you probably need a specific actuator for that. We have our next guest in the studio, George Hotz. How you doing, George? It's good to hear from you.
What's going on? Welcome.
Can we hear you?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Gotcha.
Let's kick it off with something simple. I want to take your temperature on AGI timelines, PDoom, the easy and fun stuff.
I don't know what AGI means, and I don't know what you mean by doom.
No? Are these terms just entirely irrelevant? I mean, now we've shifted to super intelligence. They're all buzzwords, but at the same time, there is an idea of I don't know, the conversations may be shifting to the AI generating more economic value than humans. Is that a relevant metric to track?
Machines have been generating more economic value than humans since the Industrial Revolution.
Is there some other metric that we should be tracking? Or is it just irrelevant?
You're just talking about hype. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you mean. You can talk about concrete things, but a term like AGI means nothing, right? Computers, everything that's a Turing machine is a general purpose computer. Is that what you call intelligence? I don't know what you mean. Is a linear regression intelligent? What if it's big enough? The Chinese room does know Chinese.
Yeah. What about your decision to get on a spaceship traveling at 0.9 C away from the Earth? How close are we to that? Are we closer than the last time we talked, which was a couple of years ago? And it seemed like it was maybe going to happen within your lifetime. Has it moved at all?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm actually going to get that spaceship, but it's kind of in an ideal world what I would want to do,
Yep.
Just back away and chill. And don't look back. Actually, you can't look back.
You can't
never look back.
They're all there.
you need the blast shield, right?
You need the information shield.
Information shield. One. What do you mean?
Oh, that's how they're going to get you.
Okay.
Right. I mean, okay. So, here's a way you can think about AI, right?
Yeah.
Imagine there were 10 CIA agents assigned to you. Okay. And they're running at 1,000x real time. So they're hyper fast CIA agents that devote their entire lifespan to your day. And they're trying to manipulate you. Maybe to get you to buy things, maybe to get you to vote for a certain guy, whatever. But that's what you're going to be up against with AI. What we're currently building, what if you think about the biggest companies in AI, what they do is advertising. What advertising is just manipulation of humans. So you're going to have a team of CIA agents thinking about you and trying to manipulate you at all times. And now you see why you want to head away at the speed of light, right? Even CIA agents can't beat that.
Is there some world where there's like a capital war and I'm paying for a more powerful ad blocker?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good. Like, another question is kind of to say, like, okay, if you think that, you either think that current, like, capital accumulation dynamics are going to continue and that the rich are going to continue to get richer. And if you believe that, the question is kind of, well, how many people are going to survive in the future? How many people are going to have any modicum of independence? Right? Like, you have some far AI people who think that there's going to be a singleton, right? You think that there's going to be literally one, right? You know, some people maybe think it's 10, some people 1,000, 10,000. Some people think that all the humans will get to continue to exist as independent entities. Are they already independent entities? That's a question, right? I don't know.
Good question. I mean, if you were trying to put it in like the form of a bet, human population above or below 8 billion in 2030?
Above, I think. I would just continue a normal trend. Is that what the trend says? Yeah, just go with whatever the trend says. I don't think there's going to be any discontinuities to any trends, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, at some point, but the question is, like, how far out do you have to go until you start seeing these effects?
Well, what do you mean by human, right? What about someone who lies in bed all day and watches TikTok? Are they human?
Yeah, that is odd. They kind of drop out of society.
I think question that popped up for me is this all this debate about AI safety and what should labs be doing, what should labs not be doing. It feels like your angle is it should be each individual's responsibility to look after their own safety in the context of AI. Is that at all?
I just like this whole like shouldn't, like, what? I don't know. I'm not a sadistic fuck who wants to manipulate other people like the people in power. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, people still look to you as like an example of like someone who might have
answers. No, I don't have any answers.
Not necessarily answers, just like
but you can buy my shitcoin. Here, should I shill a shitcoin? Here you go. Just click this QR code and you can buy a George Hotz coin, and that will give you answers. You will find satisfaction and fulfillment in your life after purchasing a George Hotz coin.
Is that the end state? We all have our own coins? I guess.
No. I don't mean it like that. I mean it like, I think that a lot of people are like, they don't really know what they're looking for, and that vacuum is very it's very dangerous, and it's going to be filled by dumb shit. And don't have that vacuum, right? You gotta stand for something, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that there's a chance that someone is able to take a stand and actually bend the arc of AI progress in the way that I mean, it happened with nuclear, right? Like nuclear development did stall. There was a stagnation in real world build out of nuclear capability on the energy side.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things about nuclear that make it different. So nuclear, even as a weapon, is incredibly hard to deploy tactically. Right. So if a country has nuclear weapons, they're, aside from like a mutually assured destruction idea, they're not all that useful. Yeah. It's not like you can use a nuclear weapon to accomplish tactical objectives. If you could, I think Russia would have already done it.
Yeah.
Right. Russia has some tactical objectives they might want to accomplish, but nukes aren't really going to do it. Right. And then from a pure realpolitik perspective, not even from a taboo moral perspective. Like, do you want an irradiated pile of rubble? Like, that's what you're going to get. No, what you want is drones that are hyper-specific and can take out exactly who you want, can control areas, right? So, like, as a military technology, nukes are not that good. AI is way better.
Yeah, but what about it as an energy technology? It feels like the fear, or like the mimetic fear of nuclear war and total destruction, caused a whole bunch of regulation to pour into a sector and essentially a stalling of nuclear energy build out. And if the AI doom scenario, whether it's real or not, becomes so mimetically powerful that someone's able to harness that and actually say, if you try and build a big data center, we will shoot you, then maybe it stagnates? No?
Really think that's the reason for nuclear. I think it has more to do with why we can't do other big infrastructure projects in this country, right? Like, it doesn't have to do with we also can't build dams, right?
Yeah.
And if you look, like, that's the thing. If people think that there's some weird taboo around nuclear, right? But then, okay, look at hydroelectric, right? There's no taboo around hydroelectric, but China leads in installation of both nuclear and hydroelectric and coal and everything. It's almost like they're correlated, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is not there's a specific fear around nuclear. It's like, the U.S. decided that they're a developed country. And we're not going to develop anymore because we're already developed. You see the D on the end, right? Like,
interesting. Yeah.
Is that just cultural then when you are like the malaise sets in? Would you expect that to happen to China when they catch up?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just like this normal story arc of like, it's. I don't know. I think that like you have a real problem when the kids can't live better than their parents.
Yeah.
So, but I don't have anything more to speculate on that.
Do you have more context on China and specifically in like the AI context? Like
U.S. electricity looks like this, and China electricity looks like this.
Is that all that matters?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good proxy for everything, right?
Yeah.
Like there's two things, people are like, George, how do you feel about the Trump administration? I'm looking at two things.
Yeah.
With any administration, I'm looking at two things. Did you decrease government spending? And did you increase total electricity production of America? Those are the only two numbers I care about. Those will capture everything.
Why does government spending matter? We were joking that, Trump must be extremely AGI-pilled if he's running up a massive budget deficit.
What the hell is AGI? I don't know what this is.
Like in this formulation,
never seen it.
In this formulation,
Excel.
it adds
numbers.
Yes, but it is an extra lever on labor and capital, and it creates more GDP that then can be taxed to pay down the increasing amount of debt.
Super Excel.
Yeah, Super Excel.
Get it. What does Super Excel do that normal Excel doesn't
Let's
do?
give it up
Excel
for Super better Excel.
Yeah.
Yes, we need
Excel 2.0. Right?
Yes.
The thing is, Excel was the final piece of software, but in order to add another, $100 trillion to global GDP, we needed to like kind of rebrand it, and so now we get AGI.
GDP is the complete, it's the biggest bullshit thing ever, right? Like I always joke with my friend and I that we're going to start companies and be billionaires, and I'll tell you how we're going to do it. So
okay.
Right? I start a company, he starts a company. We both write contracts to each other.
Yep.
Right? Like I'll buy something from him for $1 million, and he'll buy something from me for $1 million. We'll just do this real fast. We'll keep passing the money back and forth. Whoa, look at our revenue. Wow, that all contributes to GDP. Wow, we're billionaires overnight, right?
Yep.
And that's my argument is the economy is just that with a lot of extra steps, right? You can't use services as not part of GDP. This is complete nonsense. Right? You can't have services. Like literally, you take the steel out of the ground, you grow the corn. Okay, that's GDP.
But if that GDP is fake, is the deficit not fake? Like is government spending less fake?
We really owe that shit to people. It's not fake.
But can't you just tax the fake money? Like if you tax your scenario where you're generating $1 billion in fake money.
You can't tax the fake money because we're passing the same dollars back and forth. The minute you tax it, that falls off so fast.
Yeah.
You can only tax productive work.
Is AMD doing productive work right now?
AMD's doing all right. Yeah, either NVIDIA's really overvalued or AMD's really undervalued. It has to be one or the other.
How does it all play out? Like, what does AMD actually need to do to get back on track or realize their potential?
NVIDIA needs to stumble. I mean, it worked for AMD and Intel, right? Like, so AMD ended up beating Intel in the entire, like, no one would buy a data center Intel CPU anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just because, they stumbled, and now Intel owns that market.
Yeah.
So, AMD just sits there in second place.
Okay.
They're being a better second place than they were a few years ago.
Yeah.
And then when NVIDIA stumbles, AMD is like, oh, hey, we're here.
Is DGX Lepton, like their cloud offering, a potential stumbling block, or is it the right move for them?
I don't know what that is. What's some NVIDIA cloud shit?
Yeah, exactly.
Cloud's dumb. You can break AI down basically into there's five tiers, right? Like at the base level, you have like electricity and data centers and land and like things like that. Tier 2 are like TSMC, ASML, Samsung, Intel, right? Fabs, Nvidia, AMD, OpenAI, Anthropic, and then on top you have like completely worthless things like Cursor and Windsurf. These character AI, all these people who think, oh, we're the app, we're gonna get the ARR. No, that worked to the web, it won't work for AI, and I can go into why, but it's kind of boring.
Keep going.
Basically, okay, so here's the difference between AI and web. when you want to run a service like Gmail, one server can serve 10,000 people easily, right? And there's no demand for like better Gmail, right? It's not like I can click and get like, yeah, you can buy Gmail Pro, it'll have a few things, but most people don't really care, right? There's no limit to the ceiling of how good you want your AI to be, right? Or how fast you want your AI to be. Maybe there's a limit to the speed, but like when you're at like 1,000 tokens per second, I want the biggest model in the world, right? Like, so there's very little limit on that. But suddenly you can't serve 10,000 users from one server anymore, right? And the whole dynamics of the web, the whole reason some of the value aggregated to these end players, and they still didn't aggregate to the Cursor and the Windsurfs. They aggregated to the OpenAI and the Anthropics, right? Nobody who built like an email client survived. They all got eaten up by the tier 4s of the web, right? The Googles, the Facebooks, all of these like app providers, right? Where's a Zynga today, you know? Like this already happened, right? People just don't, where's Zynga? Oh, Zynga's gonna be the next thing, man. Like, no, it's not. Facebook ate all of that value, right? Google ate all of the value from all the people building on top of Google. So the tier 4s ate all that value. Yeah. So OpenAI, Anthropic will eat all the value from the Cursors and the Windsurfs of the world. They'll acquire some of them. They'll compete with some of them, right? Same as you saw on the web. But I argue that the tier 4s aren't even going to have value because the tier 4s are, this ain't the web. This ain't where you can have one server serve lots and lots and lots of people. You know, I'm running O3. You know how much I cost OpenAI every month? I pay the $200 a month, and I cost them a lot more than that. Oh, Codex. You can now click on Codex. Yeah, spin up 4 nodes. Yeah, why would I not click 4? It's not my computer. You gave me the button. Hey, I'm just using it.
George Hotz single-handedly bankrupts $300 billion company.
Is there no value in just being the front end to AI applications to be like the front door, just the default button? Because we see these models kind of go back and forth in terms of benchmarks or what's hot, and there isn't as much customer churn as you would expect because people are just kind of like defaulted into the app that they installed whenever. And so even if Gemini gets better in terms of the actual performance metrics, people don't switch from OpenAI to Google overnight.
Because it's so negligible. You got to make something 10x better, right? Okay. You got to make something 10x better. So like this whole game is OpenAI's unless they stumble.
Sure.
I'm not switching to Gemini because it's 20% better and I download the new app and think about a whole new thing, right? No one's going to switch for that.
Is there a chance for a company to kind of come out with something that's 10x better with an algorithmic improvement, or is it just a race for scale? Like, what could actually be that next? It felt like GPT 3.5 when they really broke through with DaVinci, and then 4.0 and then 4. Like, it felt like this kind of like binary moment when a lot of people realized that this was usable for their daily life, even if it's just a Google search replacement or whatever, write a poem or whatever. Like a 10x, what you're describing, like a 10x improvement, feels like that kind of like qualitative binary shift. Is that possible with just scale, or is this something that we need a different model for?
I don't know. I don't know. I would bet majority still on, like, these big labs are also attracting the talent. But it is also like, it's pretty commoditized, a lot more so than like Google search, right? Like, you can look at, people track how far open source is behind. It's not that far behind.
Yep.
So no, I don't know. I think this game is mostly going to be ChatGPTs. I think Elon's aware of this too. That's why he's trying to go 10x bigger with the data center.
Yep.
We'll see. Maybe it'll work. You know, there's someone to bet on. Anthropic, I'm not that bullish on, but maybe.
You kind of predicted the pre-training wall, but that's not a refutation of the bitter lesson, and we're going to see similar scale play out in reinforcement learning, or is there going to be something else that we're building the big data centers for?
There's something that we don't understand in terms of data efficiency. So like, when you think of how long it takes a GPT to learn to talk, like how much data it takes like terabytes of data. In order to make a GPT talk like a normal person, it takes terabytes of data.
Okay.
Whereas a human trains on megabytes.
Yeah.
Right? How is it that if you take all the text that you've ever heard in your life and you put it to Whisper and you transcribe it, it's going to be a couple of megabytes, 10 megabytes, maybe 100 megabytes.
Yeah.
So humans have this 1000x data efficiency advantage. And we're going to have to fix that if we want like reinforcement learning to work, especially like reinforcement learning that you want to do in the real world. humans can learn from very few samples.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that like it might be okay if these foundation models train unsupervised on lots and lots of stuff. But yeah.
Is that something that somebody's working on, just like a new, more data efficient algorithm to drop into the pipeline, or do we have any like leads there? Because it feels like right now we're going down the path of like reinforcement learning with verifiable rewards, and we're going after like individual business use cases that are increasingly long tail, and that could be kind of like valuable, but it doesn't feel like the breakthrough that you're talking about.
Like, has there ever been a breakthrough, right? Like, people think GPTs were a breakthrough. No, they weren't. Like, if you watch the world, it was all just
smooth curve.
You know, but what I will say about AI scaling laws, oh man, you see, like, people get excited about AI scaling laws, but here's a pitch that'll kill your excitement immediately. Ready? AI scaling laws. You can put in exponentially more money to get linear returns.
Yes, exactly. Do you believe that the real value is investing in humanoid robotics then? Have you heard this theory? So I mean, if you put exponential more money into humanoid robotics, assuming that they work and assuming you can you can, like, if you make 10 times as many robots, you get 10 times as much output.
Anyone who wants a humanoid robot has never worked in a factory in their life.
Okay.
Right?
Break it down.
No one wants a humanoid. Oh, yo, it's going to walk around. Oh, good thing it has legs. Right? No. Look, here's what I want. Yeah. Okay, we got a laugh track. All right. Can you show me a robot arm that's capable of putting a screw in something?
Probably.
Just the arm.
Yeah.
Put the screw in the thing.
Yeah.
No. Not like you carefully jigged up the screw and have a screw dispenser, like the way a normal human does it, where the screw's sitting there in a little bucket on the thing, and it picks up one screw and it puts it in. It takes a screwdriver.
We're not close, but also it feels like we're not far. It feels like that's what 5
I
years,
feel like
10 years?
I feel like humanoids are this interesting sort of like space, because a lot of smart people just say like, here's the 20 reasons why they won't work and like why we shouldn't build them. But then so much capital and so many different teams are trying to make them work that they very well might work for some things. And like humanity might brute force it because we saw it in a sci-fi movie, 30 years ago.
Why? Why are we cooked on humanoids?
This is as dumb as self-driving cars was, right?
Okay.
And nobody learns their lesson. And people like Kyle Vogt should be ashamed of themselves. Like, they really should. These people who go and raise large amounts of money for another thing that, like, they should know. They should know better, right? Here's basically, like, remember in 2012 when Google said that, my 12-year-old daughter would never have to get her driver's license?
Yeah.
Come on, that's nonsense, right? And, like, now, okay, they shipped Waymo. It's in a few cities. They're teleoped, right?
How teleoperated are they, in your opinion? Is it effectively 1-to-1?
It's more than 1-to-1. There's probably I would say there's 1.2 operators per car. But it's not. They don't have a steering wheel and pedals.
Yeah.
It is an autonomous system that they're probably doing some higher level inputs on. They're definitely like saying when you can be aggressive, when you should slow down. Whether you can turn at a stop sign or not.
Yeah.
Again. Like, here's the simple reason to know that it's like that, right? There's definitely some teleop of the Waymos, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a picture of that room?
No.
Yeah, why not?
I've always thought it was like an ace up their sleeve, because like if there's a lot of pressure on them to say these Waymos aren't safe, they can pull the sheet off of the ghost and say there's actually a human in the loop. Don't worry, it's safer than you thought.
Yeah, like. The fact that you've never seen that room tells you that it's way worse than you think it is, right?
Okay.
Tells you that there's way more teleop than you think it is. If it was really one person supervising 10 cars, Google would post those pictures all over the place.
Yes.
You don't see any pictures. Cruise that actually came out in the lawsuit, I think it was like 1.5 or 1.7 humans per car, right?
Or vice versa, like 1.5 cars per person, right?
No.
Wait, more people than cars?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
That's insane.
It's still that
because an Uber only requires one person.
Yes, I know.
But so So maybe the real innovation is just allowing somebody to get in a car with and not have to talk about the weather or you know.
Exactly. I'll pay more for that. I'll pay more for that.
Yeah, but I mean, is there any hope that we drive this down and we get to 2 cars per person, then 4 cars per person, it starts doubling exponentially, and eventually, like, we are there?
I mean, yeah, like, it's obviously going to happen, right?
Yeah.
It's obviously eventually going to happen. If you want to see where the real state of the art of unsupervised self-driving is today, right? Yep. There's no person with FSD. When you get your Tesla, that's not teleop. You can go press FSD, and that's real AI. And, well, you can see how good it is, right? Would I take a nap in there, even for 5 minutes? No way in hell. You'd be stupid, right?
How are things going on the comma side? Give us the update there.
Pretty good. You know, we're on track to be 2 years behind Tesla. So
there you go.
So 2 years behind Tesla. But you know, here's why we win, right? Because it's cheap. Okay, so when you think about self-driving cars, it doesn't look anything like the rollout of Uber, right? Or Airbnb. When you roll out something like that, you're trying to roll out a two-sided marketplace. You got to spend tons of money on customer acquisition costs. You got to make sure that you've perfectly matched that marketplace right away, because if drivers aren't getting rides, they're going to leave the platform. If riders have to wait too long for drivers, they're going to leave the platform. So it's this careful balancing act. But once you get this marketplace, you got a moat, right? Switching costs are real high. Try to get everybody to switch at the same time. It's a challenging point, and never do it. Self-driving cars don't look anything like that. Self-driving cars look like scooters. The only thing that it's going to take to roll out big fleets of self-driving cars is capital, right? It's just strictly a capital market. If I look at a city, I can calculate how many Waymos there are. If I want to build my own network and deploy that network and run it at a lower cost, it's straight up capital. Easiest thing for investors to calculate. Very little risk. So self-driving cars are going to be this awesome race to the bottom. Right? It's going to be like scooters, where there's going to be like 10 providers of these things for a while, and then they're going to consolidate, and like one's going to do it. But people are really going to win.
What's most valuable in terms of developing the next better version of full self-driving? Is it having a lot of data, building a big data center, having a great team to actually design the system? What's most important? Are they all equal?
Yeah, all those things matter, right? I think the main thing that matters more than anything else is just time. Like, we're figuring things out with research, infrastructure's getting better. I think that a lot of it's just infrastructure. I mean, my new company's AI infrastructure, right? Like, the infrastructure gets better. My coworker has this saying, is like, what we do is that we make the hard things easy and the impossible things hard. And that's like the goal of infrastructure, right? So you build infrastructure, your infrastructure gets better, and then what you couldn't even dream of doing 10 years ago is now one command today. And today, you know,
What's the current use case for most people with tiny boxes? That's by design, right? You're not supposed to know. But I mean,
so, like, I sell a computer, it has specs, right? Like, so many people want to tell you, and I hate this. They're telling you like how the product is going to impact your life, or what you can use the product for. Oh my God, who cares? Here's what it is. I'm going to tell you what it is. That's your job, right? I'm not an advertiser.
But I mean, our intern wants to build something with a tiny box. I want to give him some ideas.
Go buy one. I don't know. Why do you want to build some with a tiny box? I mean, is it good? Yeah, it's just a bunch of GPUs in a box. You know, it's a nice little box.
GPUs in a box.
Weight to it.
What robotic form factors are you most bullish on? We've touched humanoids. You gave a great review there. We've touched autonomous vehicles. Sounds like generally bullish, but capital wars, race to the bottom, all that stuff. Are there any other kind of form factors that you're thinking about that you are generally optimistic or excited about? The arm.
Maybe two arm, right? Just two arm, right? Because look, I run a factory. I run a factory in San Diego. We make all the commas right here. And I can't wait to get a whole lot of robots in there. But I don't need humanoids. I'm just going to stick two arms to the table, and then it's going to grab a comma. It's going to put the screen on the front. It's going to flip it over. It's going to put the 4 screws in it, and then it's going to pass it on. Right? Show me anything that's anywhere near that level today.
Yeah, what would you do if you were trying to build like a truly multi-purpose robotic arm?
The arm's already good enough. It's the off-the-shelf arms are fine. It's all software.
Okay.
Again, it's always all software. Autonomous vehicles are all software. Robotics is all software. But everybody loves to bike shit.
Yeah.
Like, what color are we going to paint the humanoids? You know, like let's have a great conversation about that. Well, we don't want to paint them red because that might scare people and evoke Terminator. This is actually the level of stupidity that I see in those discussions about humanoid robots.
Yeah.
Would you trade in your legs for wheels if you could? I got that.
Trade in my legs for wheels?
Yeah. This is a question from Aaron Frank, friend of the show. He's asking us in real time.
Weird wheel guy then. Like, people had asked me if the wheels are like making a statement. I just don't want to have this conversation all the time.
What about the sim to real gap in robotics? Like, how is simulated data? You build a bunch of data in Unreal Engine, then you try and learn it back. Obviously, there's been a bunch of experiments of that with self-driving cars. Is that a path that we should be going down for the robotic arm development?
Yeah, so I think with a lot of sim to real stuff, the reason people are excited about it is because of that data efficiency gap we spoke about, right? Like, current machine learning algorithms are like 1,000x less data efficient than humans. So yeah, you're gonna need 1,000x more data, right? If a human can learn something in one example or 10 examples, the computer is gonna need 1,000 or 10,000. Now, do you really want to reset the stupid state of the physical world 10,000 times? You might do it 10, but you're not going to do it 10,000, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you want a simulator where you can just click reset and everything's back to exactly how it was. So I think this stuff's going to play a role, but I think more fundamentally that data efficiency gap has to be understood.
We talked a little bit about coding agents. We talked about how you're bankrupting OpenAI by spinning up a lot of different codex agents. What other sort of agentic software are you excited about? Do you expect to,
What's agentic mean?
Yeah, basically bots. It's like what we're calling bots now.
What's a bot?
No, but anyways, like I just
you mean like
I don't know
from Star Trek.
Yeah, maybe. No, but I think about a world in the future. Do you expect to be? I don't know if you're a Slack guy, an iMessage guy, Discord, maybe no messaging at all. Just telepathy. But do you expect a world in the future where you're just a perfect interaction between human employees and agents, or is it going to be more like you'll do the odd deep research, or maybe you send some automated outbound emails, or have some codex bots running?
I don't even follow this.
When do you think you'll be able to book a flight just by saying, I'm trying to get to New York tomorrow?
The worst part about this is and that's going to come pretty soon, actually.
Okay.
Right? We're going to pretty soon have computer use models that are actually capable of going to delta.com and booking a flight.
Yeah.
But then what's actually going to happen is Delta's going to partner with whatever company does that, and they're going to put it behind a stupid thing, and so that's going to be here in a few years, right? Not with agentic shit, but just with normal hooking the APIs together, right?
Yeah. Wait, what is the...
It's bullish on APIs.
What is the mistake about the agentic buzzword? What are people even describing?
Again, it's another thing that I really have no idea what it means. I was hanging out with some friends last night, and my friend works at this VR company, and the CEO is really interested in things being open source.
Sure.
But he's also really interested in making sure that things are protecting our intellectual property and proprietary. And the truth is, he has no idea what the word open source means.
Yeah.
He has no idea what it means that they can copy his shit, right? That someone else could use it. He just heard the word open source in some buzzword thing, and he's like, "Do we have the open source? Do we have the open source in the thing?"
Okay, so
check the box.
Question,
check the open source box.
Okay,
but let's protect our IP.
Last question about the agentic buzzword. I think that there is something that people are picking up on, which is that these models seem to be very smart for a short amount of time, but if you run them for a long time, they start hallucinating and kind of going off the rails. And so you have 10-minute AGI. It feels incredible, but as you let it run and do more work, you can't just say, "Hey, go do a week's worth of work. Come back to me when you're." But it's superhuman in 1 minute. And so is that kind of trade-off curve real? And then is it just a matter of better harnessing to actually get to 2 hours of work, which is kind of what the agentic people are advocating for?
No, so I don't think it's better hard, but this is definitely a real phenomenon.
Okay.
This is definitely a real phenomenon. You can experience this. There's papers exploring it, which show that if in 10 seconds, there's absolutely no way I'll come even close to a modern LLM.
Totally.
Because the first shot from the LLM is great.
Yeah.
And then it kind of degrades, and it degrades pretty quickly, whereas humans look a lot more like this. Humans can stay coherent internally for much longer. So, yeah, I think that that's a real thing. I think that that's mostly going to be fixed by, like, long context.
Just more energy.
Long context RL.
Okay.
Yeah, just like you just got to do it. We'll figure out new ways to make the context better. We'll combine diffusion and auto regression in some clever ways. Yeah, I think that this is just going to be like there's not going to be a breakthrough here. There's not like one magical thing that we're missing.
Yeah.
I think it will be a continued plod. The same thing with data efficiency. I think people will start to care about it. Some new tricks will come out. Some of them will work. Some of them won't work. We'll continue to do graduate student descent until we find
anything.
Let's wrap it.
Last question for me. Anything that you're particularly optimistic about? Anything you check the timeline and you think this is awesome? I love this. I love this. I want to see more of this. Maybe a little white pill to kind of cap it off.
Yeah. So here's something I'm optimistic about. That fact that the one server can't run 10,000 users, that is most of the reason that the modern internet, that is one of the reasons that the modern internet sucks. That so much of the stuff is in non-recurring expense, and then it becomes really, really hard to compete with these people, right? Like, you could run Twitter on one computer.
Yeah.
Right? And 20 people could do it too. But like they don't, because again, these companies have moats and they invest in making sure that their moats can't be broken. With AI, I think there's going to be a much less of a moat, especially when you look at the move from auto-regression to diffusion. So auto-regression can run in large batch sizes. When you run ChatGPT, you're running with a whole bunch of other people on that same computer.
Yeah.
It's only 100. It's not 10,000, but still, it's 100. Diffusion is run in the cloud at batch size 1. And once you're in batch size 1 land, running it locally starts to make sense. Actually running the models locally, or at least having your own computer in the cloud.
Yeah.
Right? Not being some shared resource that's really controlled by somebody else. So yeah, this was never a thing because you can't put lots of people on a GPU.
That makes sense.
They tried some weird stuff with the licensing, but yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. This is a great conversation.
Yeah, I wish we had a full hour. This was great.
We'll talk to you soon, George.
Cool. Bye.
See you later.
Cheers.
Bye.